Chapter 1440. Secret of the Killing Badge. Chapter 1440. Secret of the Killing Badge. The primordial races have set their killing badges on you. You have to be careful. Monk Daming said, among the monster incarnates of this generation, Tang Lingzi was the weakest. The god race's Firmament Emperor, Goddess Xiaoxiang, the Golden Crow 7th Prince, the Rakshasa race's Rakshasa Yu and the Witch race's young Master Arcane Ghost should all be trying to find out more about Yule. In truth, if it was a one-on-one fight, Su Zimo could suppress these monster incarnates of the primordial races. However, if the other party brought many mighty figures, half-martial ancestors or set up any traps, it would be difficult for Su Zimo to deal with them. Of course, as long as he could cultivate to the perfected conjoint body realm and refine his Dharmic powers to their limits, nobody would be a threat to him unless a Patriarch attacked. Time. What he needed right now was time. Right then, Monk Daming said, "You don't have much time left. The annihilation of the Bloodvine race on 6 Stars Mountain will spread to the Bloodvine race and shock the entire cultivation world before long. More than 10,000 Bloodvine race beings died here. 50 mighty figures, 6 half-martial ancestors and even the young master of the Bloodvine race. With such a heavy loss, there's a high chance that a Patriarch of the Bloodvine race will hunt you down." Su Zimo raised his brow. "Half of the Bloodvine race beings here died in your hands. If a Patriarch comes out, you won't be able to hide either, right?" "Who knew that I was here?" Monk Daming asked with a fake smile. "The cultivators of Southern Dual Sect," Su Zimo said instinctively. Monk Daming shook his head and smiled. "Although I brought them away from 6 Stars Mountain, I did not appear the entire time. They only saw you descending on 6 Stars Mountain to fight against the experts of the Bloodvine race. This time round, when they leave and obtain the news of the destruction of the 6 Stars Mountain Bloodvine race, they will only think that everything was your doing and no one will know that I appeared." Su Zimo was silent. It was only then that he realized that Monk Daming had shifted everyone from Southern Dual Sect in advance, not because he was worried about their safety. It was because he did not want to expose his tracks. All the Bloodvine race beings on 6 Stars Mountain were dead. Right now, apart from Su Zimo, no one else knew the truth. However, Monk Daming knew that Su Zimo would not publicize this matter. There was a high chance that Monk Daming had already accomplished some sort of goal by descending on 6 Stars Mountain this time round to search through the memories of 6 Bloodvine half-martial ancestors. However, he did not expose his tracks and stayed out of things completely. It was the same for the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley. Monk Daming did not appear, but he was the eventual winner. His combat strength was already superior to his peers. Coupled with his profound wisdom and scheming capabilities that far surpassed others, someone like that was almost invincible without any weaknesses. Up till this point of his cultivation, Su Zimo had encountered many paragons and monster incarnates such as Degenerations. However, he was way too weak compared to Monk Daming. If Monk Daming wanted to kill Degenerations, he might not even have to do it himself. He could do it by a scheme and Degenerations would not even know how he died. However, someone as terrifying as this was defeated in the past as well. He was suppressed for 40,000 years. Right then, Monk Daming said, "There should be an Ashoka wood in Tang Lingzi's storage bag. The Ashoka tree is a sacred tree of the Buddhist monasteries. As for you, you cultivate Buddhism and your body is the creation green lotus. This Ashoka wood is a great tonic for you. If you're able to absorb this Ashoka wood completely, you'll be able to break through to the mid-stage conjoint body realm with ease and might even reach the late-stage conjoint body realm." Su Zimo nodded. However, Monk Daming changed the topic. "Like I said, you don't have much time left." "What do you mean by that?" Su Zimo frowned slightly. "Once I leave 6 Stars Mountain, I'll find a secluded place to hide. Even if a Patriarch of the Bloodvine race comes out, will he be able to find me?" That was Su Zimo's plan. Now that Monk Daming was fine, he no longer had any concerns. Therefore, Su Zimo intended to lay dormant after leaving 6 Stars Mountain and absorb all the Ashoka wood before coming out. "Sure," Monk Daming said with conviction. "The Patriarch of the Bloodvine race isn't the only one who can find you. Every single one of them can." After pondering for a moment, Su Zimo murmured, "The killing badge." "That's right," Monk Daming said slowly. After the Bloodvine race released the killing badge on you, you gained a unique aura. No matter where you head to, they will be able to sense you. The killing badges of the other primordial races have the same effect. I see. Suddenly, Su Zimo was enlightened. It was no wonder why Tang Lingzi had to get the killing badge out even when he was about to die. Furthermore, the reason why he said that Su Zimo would be hunted down by the Bloodvine race for the rest of his life and would have to die was because of the killing badge. If the killing badge was truly so powerful, Su Zimo would be located by the Bloodvine race no matter where he went. He would not have the chance to refine the Ashoka wood. You're well versed in Buddhist and fiend secret skills. Are you able to dispel this badge? Su Zimo looked at Monk Daming and asked in a deep voice. Given the methods displayed by Monk Daming right now, he was almost omnipotent and knew everything. Su Zimo would not be surprised if he could dispel the killing badge. Monk Daming smiled and shook his head. I can't. After a brief pause, he continued, however, there's a place you can try. If the experts there are willing to do something, they might be able to dispel this killing badge. Where? Su Zimo asked. Monk Daming said, Enigma Palace. At the mention of Enigma Palace, the first people Su Zimo recalled were Lin Xuanji and the old man with the Confucian crown. The second person he recalled was someone called Heavenly Secrets and also knew the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Heavenly Secrets was the one who schemed to capture Night Spirit and set up a trap in Heaven and Earth Valley to bait Su Zimo so that he could fight against the major sects, factions and primordial races. He wanted to make use of that battle to refine the bloodlines of Heaven and Earth Valley. However, he did not expect that he would end up paving the path for Monk Daming. Before rushing to Heaven and Earth Valley, Su Zimo received a warning from Lin Xuanji. Furthermore, his handwriting was scribbled in a hurried manner. Could something have happened to Enigma Palace? Right. Monk Daming continued, I've also received news that your big brother should be rushing to Enigma Palace. Big brother? Su Zimo was stunned for a moment before coming to a realization. Big brother Yen Beichen. The Asura, yes. Monk Daming nodded. Back in the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley, the Asura chased after Heavenly Secrets. However, Enigma Palace had many secret skills. Heavenly Secrets had powerful escape techniques and fled the entire way. Although the Asura chased after him for thousands of kilometers, he still managed to return to Enigma Palace. Furthermore, he made use of the power of Enigma Palace to retaliate and injure the Asura severely. If I'm not wrong, the Asura should be heading over for revenge this time round. Initially, Su Zimo was hesitant. However, when he heard that, he made a decision to head to Enigma Palace immediately. Chapter 1441. The enraged gaze of the Vajra cannot compare to the lowered glance of the Bodhisattva. Chapter 1441. The enraged gaze of the Vajra cannot compare to the lowered glance of the Bodhisattva. Yen Beichen's hatred towards Heavenly Secrets stemmed from Qin Pianran's death. He had once said that he would not let anyone who hurt Qin Pianran off. Heavenly Secrets was one of the killers who killed Qin Pianran. Without Heavenly Secrets' divination, Yen Beichen and Qin Pianran's location would not have been exposed and Immortal Sword would naturally not have seized the opportunity to invade. Therefore, no matter who was backing Heavenly Secrets, even if it was a massive entity like Enigma Palace, Yen Beichen would definitely not let them off. If Yen Beichen were to attack Enigma Palace this time round, he would definitely start a massacre and a huge battle would break out. The reason why Su Zimo wanted to rush to Enigma Palace immediately was not because he was worried about Yen Beichen's massacre. He was worried about Yen Beichen's safety. Although Yen Beichen attained the title of Asura, he could no longer be considered as someone of the Fiend sections. He was the second Fiend Emperor Hatred, someone who was all alone and hated the entire world. He would not get involved with any sect or faction. To him, the only thing that mattered was hatred. Although he was supported by the two Fiend techniques of the Hatred Sutra and Asura Sutra, it was almost impossible for Yen Beichen to challenge Enigma Palace single-handedly. If nothing unexpected happened, Yen Beichen's cultivation should still be at the conjoint body realm. Enigma Palace was the most mysterious and largest sect in the cultivation world. It was established and passed down by Fairy Ling Long in the ancient era. Throughout history, countless supersects disappeared in the sands of time without a trace. However, Enigma Palace remained standing. Although Enigma Palace rarely interfered in the affairs of the cultivation world, all the super sects in the cultivation world, be it the 9 immortal sects, 7 fiend sects or 6 Buddhist monasteries, would not take the initiative to provoke Enigma Palace. The prestige and status of Enigma Palace was unshakable in the cultivation world. Fairy Ling Long was the wife of the human emperor. Enigma Palace was more like a sacred ground for humans. Who was Yen Beichen? He was the Asura, a fiend who attained his Tao by killing. One could imagine the outcome of a fiend challenging a sacred place of the human race. Even if the Patriarch of Enigma Palace did not appear, the foundation of Enigma Palace alone was not something that the Asura could defend against single-handedly. More importantly, Heavenly Secrets was an extremely terrifying opponent. If not for Monk Daming's sudden appearance in Heaven and Earth Valley, everyone would have been Heavenly Secrets' chess pieces that were set up for him. Previously, Heavenly Secrets was hunted down by Yen Beichen and escaped back to Enigma Palace in a panic. He was unprepared and merely injured Yen Beichen severely. Given Heavenly Secrets' intelligence, he would definitely expect Yen Beichen to make a comeback. He must have prepared everything and set up a trap, waiting for Yen Beichen to jump in so that he could bury the latter in Enigma Palace. Yen Beichen was no fool. It was not that he had not thought of that. However, he was already fiendish and the hatred in his heart gained the upper hand. Therefore, even though he knew that there were endless dangers ahead, even if he had to be smashed into pieces and his essence spirit was destroyed, he would kill his way into Enigma Palace to take revenge for Qin Pian Ran. There was only hatred in the Asura's heart, not life and death. Therefore, Su Zimo had to head to Enigma Palace. On the other hand, since there was no news from Lin Xuanji, he could ask about it when he was at Enigma Palace as well. Of course, Monk Daming had just mentioned that Enigma Palace might have a way to dispel the Bloodvine race's killing badge. No matter what, he had to head to Enigma Palace. Right then, an extremely powerful aura burst forth from Ming Zhen's body. It was as though another shackle on Ming Zhen had been broken. After entering the conjoint body realm, he broke free of the shackles of heaven and earth once more and his lifespan extended to 20,000 years. Initially, Ming Zhen was skinny and frail. Now that he was at the conjoint body realm, his flesh gradually filled and his withered yellow face gradually turned rosy. Ming Zhen's life force intensified. He held a green lantern in his palm. The flame of the green lantern gradually calmed down and emitted a faint glow that fused with Ming Zhen's aura. Monk Daming's gaze landed on Ming Zhen and his eyes lit up. What a pure Buddhist aura! Monk Daming could not help but exclaim. He sensed carefully and was surprised. He actually obtained the inheritance of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva? That's right. Su Zimo nodded. That's incredible. Monk Daming nodded slightly. Without great compassion, magnanimity and courage, there's no way he could have obtained the recognition of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. This young monk is not bad. His future accomplishments are limitless. The appraisal of Monk Daming was remarkable. Right then, Ming Zhen opened his eyes and stood up slowly with a faint smile. His eyes were clear and bright without any impurities. Those eyes seemed to possess a mysterious noble power and supreme benevolence that could calm one's heart and enlighten all living beings. Even Monk Daming turned his head away subconsciously after meeting Ming Zhen's eyes for a brief moment. The enraged gaze of the Vajra cannot compare to the lowered glance of the Bodhisattva. I finally witnessed that today. Monk Daming lamented. That was a classic saying in the Buddhist monasteries. The enraged gaze of the Vajra could subdue a group of fiends. However, the Bodhisattva's lowered gaze spread compassion throughout all 6 paths of reincarnation. Coincidentally, Monk Daming cultivated the 4 Vajras. As for Ming Zhen, he inherited the legacy of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. The reason Monk Daming had that realization was because he turned his head away involuntarily after meeting Ming Zhen's gaze. This did not mean that Ming Zhen's combat strength could compare to Monk Daming. However, Monk Daming lost in terms of comprehension of Buddhism. You guys can leave. I still want to stay here for a period of time. Monk Daming stood on 7 Kills Peak and looked into the distance, waving his hand. There were tens of thousands of Bloodvine race beings buried on 6 Stars Mountain, including dozens of mighty figures and 6 half-martial ancestors. There was no way Monk Daming would miss such a bloodline. As Su Zimo pondered, Monk Daming suddenly said, "Additionally, you have to watch out for those who cultivate the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra from now on." Narrowing his gaze slightly, Su Zimo asked, "Including you?" "Including me," Monk Daming replied indifferently. "I've got it." Su Zimo nodded and prepared to leave. Right then, a gentle breeze blew past and gently lifted Monk Daming's long hair, revealing the thin blood scar on his glabella. Su Zimo frowned as a thought flashed through his mind. He suddenly thought of an extremely bold guess regarding Monk Daming. "Let's go, junior brother." Right then, Mingzhen said. Taking a deep breath of air, Su Zimo hid his speculation in the depths of his heart and prepared to check it out when he had the chance. "All right," Su Zimo replied before leaving together with Mingzhen. "Is there something on your mind, junior brother?" When Mingzhen saw that Su Zimo was distracted, he glanced sideways and asked curiously. "It's nothing much." Su Zimo shook his head and did not think about Monk Daming anymore. He said in a deep voice, "I'm prepared to make a trip to Enigma Palace. What are your plans from now on?" "Nothing much. I just want to return to Dragon Burial Valley to visit Master." Mingzhen said deeply, "There's no hurry about that though. I'll send a message to Dapamkara Monastery to inform them that I'm safe and accompany you to Enigma Palace to take a look." He could tell that Su Zimo was probably headed to Enigma Palace for something important. As such, he decided to travel together to see if he could help out. "All right." Su Zimo did not decline. Both of them channeled their Dharmic powers and traveled with all their might. Chapter 1442. Human Emperor's Words. Chapter 1442. Human Emperor's Words. Puppet Sect. The two sleazy heads huddled together. "Why are you looking for me? I'm not going." Xueqi shook his head like a rattledrum and replied firmly. "This is going to be an amazing tomb." Little Fatty took out a crumpled beast hide and said mysteriously, "Lin Xuanji sent us this treasure map and invited us to explore it. Think about it, if even he can't do it, how incredible is this tomb?" Back in the Dao inheritance ground, Lin Xuanji found the astral dragon sputum lair and entered the tomb on his own. He was also an expert in this regard. Pouting his lips, Xueqi replied, "Since when were you so close to Lin Xuanji? Why didn't I know?" "You're saying that? Back in Myriad Phenomenon City, we fought shoulder to shoulder with him and we had some ties." Little Fatty argued hurriedly. "I'm not going. You're definitely setting me up again." Xueqi shook his head. "All these years, I've accompanied you to many tombs. Even if we don't talk about life and death, we've gone through thick and thin together. Fatty, you're way too dishonest. You never share good stuff with me." "I'll definitely share it with you this time round." Little Fatty replied with a stern expression, "I swear I'll definitely give it to you if I find something good this time round." "All right, I'll trust you one more time." Hesitating for a moment, Xueqi took the treasure map and stared at it for a long time before frowning. "This place is in the heaven-expanding mountain range. It's quite close to Enigma Palace." "It's fine, there's still Lin Xuanji, right?" Little Fatty waved it off. "With him backing us, nobody will know." Pure Maiden Sect. In the room, a charming woman sat by the window. She wore a gentle white Taoist robe that accentuated her perfect figure. It was curvy and exquisite. The woman propped her chin on one hand, looking distracted with a hint of worry on her face. "Auntie Gu, you're looking for me?" Right then, a girl in pink entered the room. The moment the girl in pink entered the room, it was as though the entire room had turned brighter. Even the beautiful woman sitting there paled in comparison in front of the girl in pink. The girl in pink was none other than Demoness Ji. The beautiful woman sitting there was Gu Shi, the former chief steward of the Sky Treasure Auction House in the capital of Great Zhou. Over the years, Gu Shi had already entered the Void Reversion realm and became a Void Reversion Dao being. However, Demoness Ji had far surpassed her cultivation realm. Demoness Ji was already at the conjoint body realm. As the pure maiden of the fiend sex, Demoness Ji had sufficient cultivation resources and had obtained multiple great opportunities over the years. For example, The inheritance of Fairy Ling Long from the human emperor's palace and the complete pure maiden sutra in the Tao inheritance ground had allowed Demoness Ji's cultivation to advance tremendously. She was lauded as the #1 pure maiden of the fiend sex for the past 100,000 years. Auntie Gu, why did you lose so much weight? Demoness Ji frowned slightly and felt her heart wrench. Although her current cultivation and status far surpassed Gu Shi, she still had a deep relationship with the latter and did not neglect her at all. It's nothing much. Gu Shi forced a smile. You're worried about the Asura? Demoness Ji sighed internally and could not help but ask. Gu Shi lowered her head slightly in silent acknowledgement. Demoness Ji knew that many years ago, Gu Shi had a deep crush on Yen Beichen. Later on, after hearing some rumors about Yen Beichen and Qin Pianran, Gu Shi was heartbroken and could not let go for many years. Later on, Qin Pianran died and the true Asura was born. The Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley shocked the entire world. Gu Shi's cultivation realm was not high and she was not qualified to head to Heaven and Earth Valley. However, when she heard the Asura's condition, she was secretly worried. Yao Yan, I know his personality best. After a long silence, Gu Shi said, Heavenly Secrets killed Qin Pianran. He'll definitely look for heavenly secrets at Enigma Palace. Yao Yan, I'm begging you, go take a look at Enigma Palace. If you see him in trouble, please lend him a hand. Gu Shi's voice trembled and her eyes reddened. Among the people I know, you're the only one who can help him. There was no way the fiend sex would step in for something as such. Who would go against Enigma Palace for the sake of a lunatic who had no regard for any relationships and was not in the right mind? Auntie Gu, don't worry. I'll make a move right away and rush to Enigma Palace. Demoness Ji agreed without hesitation. Pondering for a moment she said, however, given my combat strength, I'm afraid I won't be able to go against the powerful Enigma Palace either. I can only try my best. Yao Yan, you must be careful not to implicate yourself. If anything goes wrong, abandon him. Gu Shi said resolutely. She was worried about the Asura. However, she did not wish for Demoness Ji to end up dying because of the Asura either. It's nothing. Demoness Ji smiled gently and shook her head. Enigma Palace won't dare to hurt me. Half a month later, at the Heaven-Expanding Mountain Range. The Heaven-Expanding Mountain Range was filled with thick fog all year round and Enigma Palace was situated within. Ever since the ancient era, the world had changed on Tianhuang mainland and countless battles broke out, destroying endless sects. Even super sects were not spared. However, Enigma Palace had always stood tall in the Heaven-Expanding Mountain Range. Not only that, up till the ancient era, there had never been anyone or any sect or faction that dared to cause trouble for Enigma Palace in the Heaven-Expanding Mountain Range. This was a sacred ground for the human race. However, on this day, a person arrived in the Heaven-Expanding Mountain Range. The person wore a black robe and his white hair draped over his shoulders. His eyes were pitch black and he had a cold expression as he walked over slowly. Dragging a saber that was coiled with fiend chi in his right hand, he drew a series of sparks on the ground. No matter who it was, they would feel a torrential hatred and killing intent when they saw that person. The Asura, Yen Beichen. Yen Beichen walked through the thick fog. The thick fog was extremely confusing and could even block spirit consciousnesses. Cultivators with lesser cultivation realms would get lost in the fog, let alone locate Enigma Palace. However, that thick fog was useless against Yen Beichen's pitch-black eyes. He continued forward towards Enigma Palace. The hatred fiend saber seemed to have sensed something and turned extremely excited at that moment, trembling and buzzing on the ground. Before long, Yen Beichen paused and looked up. Not far ahead, on a continuous mountain range, there were ancient Dao palaces that resembled stars in the skies. Every single Dao palace seemed to possess a mysterious secret. There was a gigantic stele erected further ahead with two bold and vigorous words written on it, Enigma Palace. The words exuded an extremely terrifying might. As Yen Beichen approached, the pressure became increasingly obvious. In the end, even he could not withstand it. Right now, Yen Beichen was already at the late-stage conjoint body realm. However, he could not advance a single step in front of the stele. This stele had a powerful origin. The words on the stele were written by the eternal human emperor personally in the past. The words of the human emperor were eternal. Chapter 1443. Exquisite Killing Formation. Chapter 1443. Exquisite Killing Formation. Yen Beichen's gaze shifted and landed on the steel not far away. Human Emperor, Fufu. Yen Beichen had a vengeful expression as he laughed bitterly. Why are you stopping me when you don't know anything at all? You really intend to stop me with just 3 words written on a lousy steel? Yen Beichen hollered and pitch-black hatred fiend chi spread out from his body. He resisted the might of the steel and walked forward step by step. The terrifying thing about the Hatred Sutra was that the deeper the hatred in one's heart, the stronger the power that could be triggered. That aura is way too annoying. Yen Beichen's gaze was cold as he glared at the steel not far away with a murderous aura. The Fiend Emperor Hatred was the #1 Fiend Emperor of the Ancient Era. Although he killed countless primordial races in the Ancient Era, immortals and fiends were enemies after all. Yen Beichen cultivated the Hatred Sutra and inherited the Hatred Fiend Saber. Naturally, he was extremely resistant to the aura of the human emperor released by the steel. Since you want to stop me, I'll kill you. Yen Beichen arrived before the steel and swung his arm. The Hatred Fiend Saber streaked through the air with a cold flash of light and slashed towards the steel. Clang! The Hatred Fiend Saber struck the steel heavily and let out an ear-piercing sound with sparks flying. The 3 words on the steel shone brightly and released an extremely terrifying recoil that surged into the Hatred Fiend Saber. The burst of that power triggered the ferocity of the Hatred Fiend Saber instead. The aura of the Fiend Saber surged and derived endless hatred fiend chi. It was pitch black as ink and filled with torrential hatred, devouring the steel instantly. The 2 energies were in a stalemate. This had already turned into a fight between the Hatred Fiend Saber and the steel. Crack, crack, crack. Cracks sounded from the fiend chi. Eventually, the Hatred Fiend Saber gained the upper hand. After all, the steel was only left behind by the human emperor, but the Hatred Fiend Saber was a true emperor weapon. Yen Beichen was expressionless as he dragged the Hatred Fiend Saber and continued heading towards the many Dao palaces before him. The fiend chi behind him dissipated, revealing scattered rocks. The eternal steel with the human emperor's words etched on it was crushed into rubble by the Hatred Fiend Saber. Audacious fiend! A holler sounded. Extremely powerful auras burst forth from each Dao palace. Many experts of Enigma Palace had arrived. At a glance, there were more than 100 of them. Among them, there were 10 half-martial Ancestor experts alone. The rest were all conjoint body mighty figures. Most importantly, this was not the full strength of Enigma Palace. Asura, Enigma Palace did not kill you last time. You don't know what's good for you and even dare to return. A half-martial Ancestor of Enigma Palace hollered with a stern expression. This was half-martial Ancestor Chen Tian of Enigma Palace. Another half-martial Ancestor of Enigma Palace said coldly, "You destroyed the steel of Enigma Palace with the human emperor's words. You truly deserve to die for your crimes." This was half-martial Ancestor Divine Turtle Dove of Enigma Palace. Asura, you met with a great calamity and ended up in such a state. Another half-martial Ancestor Li Hang said with a pained expression, "Initially, I felt some pity for you. To think that you wouldn't repent and even came to Enigma Palace to cause trouble." The 3 half-martial Ancestors had an extremely high status in Enigma Palace and were the strongest in combat. Even against more than 100 experts of Enigma Palace, Yen Beichen was fearless as he said expressionlessly, "Hand over heavenly secrets and I'll leave." Insolent! Half-martial Ancestor Divine Turtle Dove hollered, "Heavenly Secrets is now the young master of Enigma Palace and has a noble status. How can you provoke him?" Throughout history, there has truly never been anyone who dared to challenge Enigma Palace. You're the first, Asura. Half-martial Ancestor Chen Tian said coldly, "Asura, do you really think that Enigma Palace is a place you can come and go as you please?" As though he could not understand the warning from the experts of Enigma Palace, Yen Beichen merely asked indifferently, "Are you guys going to stop me as well? If that's the case, don't blame me for starting a massacre in Enigma Palace." When Yen Beichen said that, the Hatred Fiend Saber in his hand seemed to have sensed something and buzzed, turning extremely excited. Truly hopeless. Half-martial Ancestor Li Heng shook his head and sighed. I've long said that the Asura has lost his humanity and turned into a complete fiend with zero remorse. Right then, a voice sounded slowly, if such a fiend is allowed to grow, he will be a calamity for the human race and bring endless trouble to Tianhuang mainland. A person slowly walked over from the many Dao palaces. His robes fluttered and he wore a Confucian crown on his head. With handsome features and a folding fan in his hands, he had a faint smile on his face the entire time. When Yen Beichen saw that person, layers of hatred fiend qi derived from his body. The hatred in his eyes had already reached its limits as he barked hatefully, "Heavenly secrets! Asura, you're truly bold." Heavenly Secrets smiled indifferently and said calmly, "However, Enigma Palace is not a place you can challenge. Since you decided to go against Enigma Palace, prepare to die here. Kill." When Yen Beichen saw Heavenly Secrets, he could no longer hold it in and charged towards the latter with the hatred fiend's saber. The many experts of Enigma Palace were motionless as they looked at Yen Beichen from afar with mocking gazes. Phew! Heavenly Secrets chuckled. Enigma Palace is a sacred place for the human race. There's no way a fiend with your bloody hands can enter. He conjured hand seals with both hands and there was a gentle quake beneath his feet. Activate! Buzz! A series of divine lights burst forth from the Dao palaces on the heaven-expanding mountain range and entered the ground beneath Yen Beichen's feet. Immediately after, the formation patterns shone and illuminated the world. An ancient formation was activated and Yen Beichen was trapped within instantly. Yen Beichen froze. In his vision, Enigma Palace, Heavenly Secrets and the others had already vanished. There were only layers of fog in front of him. No matter how he waved the hatred fiend's saber, channeled his spirit consciousness and released Dharmic powers, the fog before him could not disperse. All his power vanished into the fog like a rock sinking into the ocean. Heavenly Secrets, come out! Yen Beichen roared and surveyed his surroundings with immense hatred in his eyes. He took a step forward. All of a sudden, an extremely terrifying power descended and slashed towards Yen Beichen. Yen Beichen harumphed coldly and waved the hatred fiend's saber. He slashed in reverse and shattered that power. He took another step forward. Swoosh! An even more terrifying sword beam descended. Although the hatred fiend's saber managed to defend against the sword beam, Yen Beichen's arm felt slightly numb. In Enigma Palace, Heavenly Secret stood with his hands behind his back with a calm expression and a faint smile. Asura, don't even think about coming out alive after falling into the Exquisite Killing Formation. The Exquisite Killing Formation. In the ancient era, it was the #1 killing formation of Tianhuang mainland. That was also the reason why Fairy Ling Long 1 was renowned throughout the world. The Exquisite Killing Formation was complex and every step was filled with killing intent. A single misstep would cause one to sink deeper and attract endless attacks from the killing formation. Throughout history, even top-tier formation grandmasters could not dispel the Exquisite Killing Formation. There was only one way to dispel the Exquisite Killing Formations. There were a total of 380 steps to the Exquisite Killing Formation. Each of the 380 steps had to be undertaken correctly. A single misstep and one would be doomed to eternal damnation. In the ancient war, this Exquisite Killing Formation killed countless experts of the primordial races. Throughout history, the reason why no sect or faction dared to provoke Enigma Palace was mostly because of the Exquisite Killing Formation. Chapter 1444. Appearance of the Pure Maiden. Chapter 1444. Appearance of the Pure Maiden. Two furtive figures were stealthily hiding in a dark corner in the heaven-expanding mountain range, watching everything unfold before Enigma Palace. The two figures were Xueqi and Little Fatty, who had rushed thousands of miles to look for the tomb. What's the background of this Exquisite Killing Formation? It seems like it's quite powerful. Xueqi muttered. More than that, this is the #1 killing formation of the ancient era. Little Fatty said, this formation was set up by Fairy Ling Long personally. Who in the world can dispel it? Brother Su is well versed in formations. If he's here, he should be able to dispel this formation, Xueqi said deeply. Hee hee. Little Fatty laughed. Although I respect Bro, he truly can't dispel the exquisite killing formation. Even the #1 master of formations in Tianhuang mainland won't be able to dispel it, let alone Bro. What do you mean? There's no hope for anybody that falls into the formation? Xueqi's eyes widened. Little Fatty nodded. As long as you take a wrong step in this exquisite killing formation, the attacks you receive will increase endlessly and become more ferocious. Initially, there might be some powers of the conjoint body realm. Later on, there will be powers of the half-martial ancestor realm and even divine powers. What? Xueqi muttered. The power of divine powers was the power of an ancestor realm cultivator. Little Fatty said, don't doubt me. There were many Mahayana patriarchs who died in this formation in the ancient war. I heard that back then, Fairy Ling Long controlled this killing formation personally and even killed an emperor. So amazing. Xueqi was shocked. What do you think? Little Fatty said, Fairy Ling Long did not become an emperor, but she established Enigma Palace and was renowned through the ages. Do you really think it's just because she's the wife of the human emperor? Xueqi asked, doesn't that mean that the Asura is dead for sure? You can't say that either. Little Fatty said, if Fairy Ling Long descends, there might be hope for the Asura. Tisk. Xueqi pouted his lips. Why isn't Lin Xuanji out yet? Little Fatty frowned slightly and rubbed his chubby palms anxiously. Xueqi replied, what's the hurry? I reckon it's inconvenient for him to come out now that the Asura is here at Enigma Palace. Now's the best time. Little Fatty said, the attention of everyone from Enigma Palace is on the Asura. Let's dig up the tomb and take away the treasures inside. There are so many experts in Enigma Palace. It's hard to guarantee that they won't notice anything after the Asura dies. It'll be difficult to make a move then. What do you mean? Xueqi asked. Little Fatty said darkly, let's not wait for Lin Xuanji. That old fogey is unreliable and his whereabouts are unpredictable. Let's not bother about him since the treasure map is in our hands. That works too. Xueqi hesitated for a moment. However, why do I feel that something is amiss? There's something strange about this. What's wrong? You love to think too much, stupid head. Little Fatty pouted. Don't worry, you'll definitely be the first to pick out the treasures we discover this time round. All right. Xueqi had no more doubts and nodded. Let's begin. In front of Enigma Palace. Yen Beichen had already fallen completely into the exquisite killing formation. Bang, bang, bang. He wielded the Hatred Fiend Saber and channeled both Fiend Sutras to their limits. Layers of Fiend Chi covered the skies and blocked the attacks time and again. However, he could no longer walk. The attacks of the exquisite killing formation turned increasingly ferocious. However, he could not find any way to dispel it. Heavenly secrets! Heavenly secrets! Get out! Yen Beichen roared loudly like an injured demon beast. His eyes were pitch black and the hatred in his heart was at its limits. In truth, if not for the support of that torrential hatred, he would have been minced to death by the exquisite killing formation as well. Enigma Palace. Heavenly Secrets and the others looked down from above with mocking expressions. There's no wonder why the Asura is a monster incarnate of the Fiend sections. If I'm not wrong, he has already taken 209 steps in the exquisite killing formation. Half-martial Ancestor Li Heng sighed gently. Even if we fall into it, we'll die before we can take 100 steps. That's useless though. Heavenly Secret smiled gently. The further he progresses, the more difficult it will become. The pressure on him doubles with every step he takes. Unless Fiend Emperor Hatred is reborn, the Asura will definitely die in less than half an hour. Half-martial Ancestor Divine Turtledove said coldly. Hee hee, what a crowd. Right then, a chuckle sounded from Midair in a pleasant manner. When the experts of Enigma Palace heard that laughter, their hearts skipped a beat and they could not help but want to see what sort of a peerless beauty the owner of that voice was. Even half-martial Ancestor Chen Tian and the others frowned. Even half-martial ancestors were affected. Everyone turned towards the sound. In the void not far away, a girl in pink stood in midair. She had a graceful figure and a flawless face. A single smile from her was enough to dim the world. His watery eyes seemed like they could steal one's soul with a single glance. Brup, brup. Gulps could be heard from Enigma Palace. More than half of the conjoint body mighty figures of Enigma Palace revealed infatuated expressions and fixed their gazes on the girl in pink. They could not take their eyes off her at all. Although the remaining conjoint body mighty figures realized something, they struggled to defend. Many mighty figures shuddered and lowered their gazes, not daring to look at the girl in pink. The girl in pink was this generation's pure maiden, Xueqi. After Xueqi obtained the complete Pure Maiden Sutra and advanced to the conjoint body realm, her bewitching techniques were completely infused into her bones. She did not even have to activate it intentionally. Every single frown, smile and action of hers could cause one to bow down to her. At that moment, some of the mighty figures of Enigma Palace lost their minds and walked towards Xueqi in a daze, completely losing their minds. Humph! Harumphing coldly, Heavenly Secret suddenly opened his mouth and said word by word, "Pure Maiden, you sure are capable." Among the many conjoint body mighty figures, Heavenly Secrets was the only one who could maintain his composure. Every single word he said used a sound domain secret skill and echoed in the minds of the mighty figures of Enigma Palace like a hammer. Many mighty figures of Enigma Palace woke up with ugly expressions. The more they thought about it, the scarier it was. If not for Heavenly Secrets' reminder, they would have been bewitched and controlled by Xueqi by now. Even if she wanted them to commit suicide on the spot, they wouldn't hesitate. What is this generation's pure maiden doing at Enigma Palace? Heavenly Secrets asked indifferently with a smile. Hee, I want to take someone away. Xueqi smiled brightly in an innocent manner. She did not seem to possess the slightest bit of scheming and conniving in the cultivation world. The smile of this young girl could cause an inexplicable sense of bliss in someone's heart such that they would want to protect her. Chapter 1445. Reneging. Chapter 1445. Reneging. Oh! Heavenly Secrets raised his brow slightly and asked, "Who do you want to take away?" "The Asura." Xueqi pointed at the Asura who was covered in injuries in the Exquisite killing formation. The smile in Heavenly Secrets' eyes intensified as he shook his head gently. The Asura doesn't care about relationships and can no longer be considered as someone of the Fiend's sections. You don't seem to have any ties with him either. Why do you want to get involved? I naturally have my plans. Xueqi bowed to Heavenly Secrets from afar and smiled. Fellow Taoist Heavenly Secrets, please give me some face. I'll definitely remember this favor. From now on, as long as you have any requests, as long as it's not overboard, I'll definitely agree to them. Her words were flirtatiously ambiguous. Many mighty figures of Enigma Palace wished that they could agree on behalf of Heavenly Secrets. Foo-foo. The smile on Heavenly Secrets' face did not reduce and his eyes remained clear. All right, if you can bring the Asura away, I naturally won't stop you. Are you serious? Xueqi asked with a smile. Of course. Heavenly Secret said with a smile. I won't stop you if you can bring the Asura out of the Exquisite killing formation. However, out of goodwill, I have to remind you about something. It's easy to enter the Exquisite killing formation, but it's difficult to come out. Thank you for the reminder. Smiling, Xueqi's figure flashed and she entered the Exquisite killing formation without hesitation. Are all the paragons of this generation so ignorant? Half-Martial Ancestor Divine Turtle Dove sneered. Half-Martial Ancestor Li Heng frowned. I heard that the Pure Maiden obtained Fairy Ling Long's inheritance in the Human Emperor's palace. It's better not to kill her. She has a death wish. Half-Martial Ancestor Chen Tian pouted. The Exquisite killing formation is right there and we didn't ask her to get in. She was the one who insisted on barging in. It has nothing to do with us. As everyone discussed, Xueqi had already entered the Exquisite killing formation. The Asura has taken 209 steps. Let's see how many steps this Xueqi can take. Half-Martial Ancestor Divine Turtle Dove sneered. The moment he said that, Xueqi had already taken a step in the Exquisite killing formation. It was an extremely beautiful step that seemed to exude an indescribable mysteriousness. The attacks of the Exquisite killing formation did not descend. Everyone from Enigma Palace frowned slightly. However, nobody minded it since it was just a single step. Immediately after, Demonis G advanced through the Exquisite killing formation with mysterious steps towards Yen Beichen. The distance between the two of them shortened rapidly. Right from the beginning, the Exquisite killing formation had not attacked Demonis G once. How could this be? Her footwork is completely different from the steps required to dispel the Exquisite killing formation. They're completely wrong, but why isn't the Exquisite killing formation reacting at all? The mighty figures of Enigma Palace were shocked and puzzled. That footwork! The half-martial ancestors of Enigma Palace were bewildered, as though they had thought of something but were unsure. It's the Exquisite steps. Right then, Heavenly Secret said slowly. What? Everyone from Enigma Palace was shocked. Heavenly Secret said in a deep voice, Demonis G used the Exquisite steps just like Founder Master Ling Long in the past. With the aura of Founder Master Ling Long, there's naturally no way this killing formation would attack her. The inheritance that Demonis G obtained in the Human Emperor's Palace was clearly the Heaven Fiend dance. How could it be the Exquisite steps? Someone asked in disbelief. I'm not sure about that. Heavenly Secrets shook his head. This Exquisite steps was the ultimate technique that brought Fairy Ling Long to fame. With that footwork at her peak, Fairy Ling Long could even match the emperors of the primordial races. However, although Fairy Ling Long established Enigma Palace, she did not leave the legacy of the Exquisite steps in Enigma Palace. To think that the Exquisite steps would reappear on the pure maiden of the fiend's sex. Stop her! Heavenly Secret suddenly said. We can't let her take away the Asura. Otherwise, Enigma Palace will never have peace. Some of the mighty figures of Enigma Palace did not hesitate when they received Heavenly Secrets' orders. Dharmic arts were released, one towards Demonis G, who was inside the Exquisite killing formation. He. Sensing danger, Demonis G could not help but chuckle with a mocking expression. To think that the young master of Enigma Palace would renege on his words. What a joke. You're wrong. Heavenly Secrets smiled indifferently. I only promised you that I won't stop you. However, I didn't say that the others of Enigma Palace won't stop you. Foo. Demonis G laughed. To think that the young master of Enigma Palace would resort to such a trick. How despicable. Enigma Palace is a sacred place of the human race. Since when have we been reduced to such a state? Even I feel embarrassed for you. Although the attacks of many conjoint body mighty figures were ferocious, Demonis G could avoid danger each time with the use of her Exquisite steps. When he heard Demonis G's mockery, the smile on Heavenly Secrets' face disappeared as he glanced sideways. Elders, please kill her. No, this won't do. Half-martial Ancestor Li Heng's expression changed as he frowned. She obtained the inheritance of Founder Master Ling Long. Even for the sake of the Founder Master, we can't kill her. Heavenly Secrets glanced sideways and asked coldly, if she takes the Asura away, he'll probably be at the Mahayana realm by the time he returns. At that time, there'll be rivers of blood in Enigma Palace. Who will take responsibility for that? But Half-martial Ancestor Li Heng wanted to argue still. However, Heavenly Secrets waved his hand. There's no need to argue about this. As the young master of Enigma Palace, I have the right to give this order. Strike. The other half-martial ancestors frowned slightly and were hesitant. Demonis G had obtained the inheritance of Founder Master Ling Long, and it was the most important inheritance. If they attacked her, it would be a great disrespect to Founder Master Ling Long. Half-martial Ancestor Qian Tian and half-martial Ancestor Divine Turtle Dove exchanged glances. Both of them could see a fleeting, strange blood glint in the depths of the other's eyes. Bang! Bang! The two half-martial ancestors attacked at the same time without any reservations. The might of a half-martial ancestor descended. Although Demonis G had the Exquisite steps, her movement speed was still greatly affected. How dare you! Demonis G hollered softly. I've obtained Fairy Ling Long's inheritance and yet you guys dare to try and kill me. Humph, a Demonis that bewitches the entire world deserves to die. Half-martial ancestor Qian Tian hollered and was unmoved. A fiend and a Demonis barging into Enigma Palace is a crime punishable by death. Half-martial ancestor Divine Turtle Dove said coldly. Shoo! Shoo! Two flying swords slashed down. They slashed down almost at Degenerations' head. A wisp of black hair fell. It was a close shave. Degenerations broke out in cold sweat. Normally speaking, given the fact that she inherited the Exquisite steps, Enigma Palace would not harm her even if she committed a grave mistake on account of founder Master Ling Long. However, she had not expected Enigma Palace to be so ruthless. Poof, poof. In her moment of distraction, 2 wounds appeared on her body. Even with the Exquisite steps, she could not last long against the pursuit of 2 half-martial ancestors. Am I going to be buried in the Exquisite killing formation today? Degenerations laughed bitterly. All of a sudden, a long howl sounded from afar, as loud as the clouds and approaching rapidly like a thunderbolt. Degenerations' eyes lit up when she heard that howl. Chapter 1446, Massive Battle. Chapter 1446, Massive Battle. Heavenly Secrets narrowed his eyes and murmured softly. Having already guessed who it was, it's him? Everyone from Enigma Palace frowned slightly. It was a robust roar with surging blood chi. Although they were thousands of kilometers apart, one could still sense the strength of the intruder. What's happening? Who dares to come over to Enigma Palace to create a ruckus? A mighty figure of Enigma Palace looked into the distance with an unfriendly expression. Seems like it's time for Enigma Palace to establish our dominance. Another mighty figure said slowly. Let's go. The mighty figure of Enigma Palace leaped up and said in a deep voice. Let me see who's the intruder. If you're here to target Enigma Palace, Fufu, don't blame me for being nasty. The other conjoint body mighty figure soared into the air as well. I'll go with you. Both mighty figures felt pent up. Be it the Asura, Yen Baichen, at the front or Degenerations who came later on, the 2 mighty figures could not defeat either of them. Now that another tactless person had arrived, the 2 conjoint body mighty figures could not help but speed in the direction of the howl. However, the 2 of them did not walk far before 2 figures appeared in the distant horizon and arrived before them in the blink of an eye. One of them was a young monk holding a green lantern in his hands. He had handsome features, clear eyes and a calm expression. The other person had green robes and black hair, looking refined and scholarly. However, there was a sharp glint in the scholar's eyes and he exuded a shuddering killing intent. Who are you? The mighty figure of Enigma Palace hollered. Desolate Marshal. The green-robed cultivator did not stop in his tracks and said 2 words that were earth-shattering. The expressions of the 2 mighty figures of Enigma Palace changed starkly. It was mighty figure Desolate Marshal. Although they resided deep in Enigma Palace and rarely roamed the cultivation world, they had heard too many rumors about Desolate Marshal over the years. The moment Desolate Marshal's name was spoken, the auras of the 2 mighty figures of Enigma Palace were crushed. This is Enigma Palace. One of the conjoint body mighty figures took a deep breath and composed himself, saying in a deep voice, even if you're Desolate Marshal, you can't barge in. Otherwise, you'll be killed without mercy. Throughout history, no one had been able to barge into Enigma Palace. As the largest sect and faction in the cultivation world, Enigma Palace's foundation was terrifying and could not be shaken by a couple of paragons and monster incarnates. The 2 mighty figures of Enigma Palace gradually became more spirited when they thought about their fellow sect mates and 10 half-martial ancestors behind them. Scram! Su Zimo's gaze shifted. When he saw Yen Baichen and Degenerations trapped in the Exquisite killing formation and met with danger repeatedly, his expression turned cold and his killing intent surged. Audacious! The 2 mighty figures of Enigma Palace hollered with darkened expressions. As mighty figures with the backing of Enigma Palace, they had never been scolded like this before. You guys are the audacious ones. Su Zimo's gaze was like lightning, and he had no intention of wasting his breath on the 2 of them. Without stopping, he charged forward and threw 2 punches towards them. You! The 2 mighty figures of Enigma Palace widened their eyes and channeled their blood chi and Dharmic powers hurriedly, raising their arms to defend. They had not expected that Su Zimo would be even more domineering than the Asura and attack them without a second word. Bang! Bang! The 2 mighty figures of Enigma Palace blocked Su Zimo's fist. However, both of their faces revealed immense pain. Crackle! The sound of bones cracking could be heard. Their arms were snapped by Su Zimo's fist. The power of that punch was still extremely terrifying, breaking through their defenses and landing on their chests. Poof! An arrow of blood burst forth from their backs. Their chests were punctured by Su Zimo's punch and their hearts exploded. Their blood chi deteriorated instantly. Conjoint body mighty figures could regrow severed limbs by surging Dharmic powers. However, that punch nearly ruptured their bodies and their injuries were way too severe that they could not recover within a short period of time. Two conjoint body mighty figures fell from midair with pale expressions. In fact, neither of them could stop Su Zimo at all. Zimo, don't step into this formation. Right then, Demoness Ji's voice sounded. As long as you can stop the others, I can take Yen Beichen and leave. All right. Su Zimo nodded in agreement. He had long heard about the legend of the Exquisite killing formation. Given his combat strength, he would not be able to escape if he were to fall in and would only be buried. Desolate Marshal. Half-Marshal Ancestor Li Hang said in a deep voice, "You've already sown deep feuds with many supersects and yet you dare to provoke Enigma Palace. I have no feud with Enigma Palace and I've never thought of becoming enemies with you guys." Su Zimo said slowly, however, "Heavenly Secret set up a trap in Heaven and Earth Valley and harmed my life. There's only one person I want to kill." What a joke. Heavenly Secrets is the young master of Enigma Palace. Half-Marshal Ancestor Li Hang frowned. If you want to kill him, you'll be going against Enigma Palace. If I'm not wrong, the titular disciple of Enigma Palace is Lin Xuanji and he's the #1 candidate for the young master. Since when was it Heavenly Secrets' turn to cause trouble? Su Zimo asked coldly. Where's Lin Xuanji? Get him to come out and meet me. Su Zimo shouted. Desolate Marshal, you have rapacious designs and colluded with a primordial taboo to try and massacre humans to rule over Tianhuang mainland. Heavenly Secret smiled gently. Lin Xuanji has a close relationship with you and can't be unrelated. He was suppressed under palace rules a long time ago. All right. Su Zimo nodded. Since that's the case, there's no need to talk about it. Before his sentence was finished, Su Zimo strode forward and arrived before Half-Marshal Ancestor Divine Turtle Dove and Half-Marshal Ancestor Qian Tian in the blink of an eye, chanting Sanskrit. Om, ma, ene, pa, mi, hum. The 6 words of Daming Mantra were released at the same time. Su Zimo's hands changed rapidly and in the blink of an eye, 6 Daming Dharmic seals burst forth and suppressed the 2 Half-Marshal Ancestors. You must have a death wish. Insolent. The many experts of Enigma Palace cursed. There were a total of 10 Half-Marshal Ancestors standing here. There were more than 100 conjoint body mighty figures present. Unless there was a Mahayana Patriarch, such terrifying strength was not something a mere conjoint body mighty figure could contend against. It wasn't just Half-Marshal Ancestor Divine Turtle Dove and Half-Marshal Ancestor Qian Tian, the other Half-Marshal Ancestors attacked as well, wanting to suppress Desolate Marshal right away. At the same time, 100 conjoint body mighty figures surrounded him. Junior brother, leave these conjoint body mighty figures to me. Ming Zhan said in a deep voice. Before his sentence was finished, Ming Zhan surveyed his surroundings and chanted a Buddhist proclamation softly. He conjured hand seals and attacked the conjoint body mighty figures. Hell Suppression Seal. The Legacy Dharmic Seal of Ksitagaba Bodhisattva. The descent of that seal could suppress hell. The moment the gigantic seal descended, the mighty figures of Enigma Palace felt a suffocating might and their expressions changed. Of course, there were many mighty figures in Enigma Palace. Although the hell suppression seal was powerful, Ming Zhan's cultivation was slightly inferior to suppress 100 conjoint body mighty figures. He had just advanced to the conjoint body realm after all. On the other side, the moment Su Zimo exchanged blows with the 10 Half-Marshal Ancestors, he did not hold back at all and a massive battle broke out. The mountains shook and the weather changed. Chapter 1447. Mystic Firmament Record. Chapter 1447. Mystic Firmament Record. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 10 half-martial ancestors of Enigma Palace attacked at the same time, and more than 10 Dharmic weapons tore through the air and whistled through the air, releasing an extremely terrifying power. The Dharmic weapons of half-martial ancestors were even stronger than mighty figure Dharmic weapons. There was a trace of divine power in those Dharmic weapons. Although that trace of divine power could not turn Dharmic weapons into Dharmic treasures, it was enough to transform mighty figure Dharmic weapons and increase their strength significantly. If it was a mighty figure Dharmic weapon, Xueqi could fight it head-on with his Green Lotus true body. However, he did not dare to be careless against so many half-martial ancestor Dharmic weapons. Slapping his storage bag, Xueqi took out a dark gray mountain, and it expanded with the wind. It was the ancient unique treasure, the Mystic Magnet Mountain. In the blink of an eye, the Mystic Magnet Mountain had already grown to a height of 1,000 feet. At the conjoint body realm, Xueqi's Dharmic powers were pure and powerful. The size of the Mystic Magnet Mountain was also increasing, and the magnetic force it emitted was at its limits. The mountain peak that was 1,000 feet tall descended and shrouded everyone's heads. It simply covered the skies and rumbled with a suffocating might. The power of magnetism had a huge impact on the many Dharmic weapons present. The more metal ores and materials used in the Dharmic weapons, the stronger the suction force. Some of the mighty figures of Enigma Palace were distracted, and their destiny Dharmic weapons left their control and flew towards the Mystic Magnet Mountain. Clang! Clang! In the blink of an eye, dozens of Dharmic weapons flew away and were pinned motionlessly on the Mystic Magnet Mountain. With that, the pressure on Mingzhen decreased significantly. However, the Mystic Magnet Mountain had almost no effect on a half-martial ancestor Dharmic weapon. Humph! Half-martial ancestor Chen Tian sneered. Our Dharmic weapons are fused with the power of divine powers, and the Mystic Magnet Mountain is useless. So, this ancient unique treasure is in your hands. That's perfect. Since you've offered yourself, Enigma Palace will accept this ancient unique treasure. Half-martial ancestor Divine Turtle Dove did not conceal his intention to kill for the treasure. You still want to snatch my treasure? A green streak of light appeared on Xueqi's glabella, and he scooped, squeezing the creation lotus platform in his palm as he said coldly, I'm just afraid you won't be alive to do so. Swoosh! Xueqi channeled his blood chi, and instantly, the sound of a tsunami surged from his body in a terrifying manner. Bang! 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 His blood chi surged and a glow spread. He raised the creation lotus platform and repelled all the incoming half-martial ancestor Dharmic weapons. The creation green lotus was indestructible. Even a half-martial ancestor Dharmic weapon could not destroy it. Mystic Firmament Sword Chi. Half-martial ancestor Chen Tian conjured hand seals, and Dharmic powers surged between his hands. In the blink of an eye, a gigantic sword was formed with a sharp edge and torrential sword chi. Slay! He pointed forward and hollered softly. The gigantic sword tore through the air as though it wanted to slice the world into two. Mystic Firmament Dharmic Seal. Half-martial ancestor Li Hang conjured a Dharmic seal, and his Dharmic powers were incomparably pure. Carrying the might of thunder, he smashed down towards Xueqi. Mystic Firmament Cyclone. Half-martial ancestor Divine Turtle Dove rubbed his palms together, and a Dharmic power storm swept over, causing sand and rocks to fly everywhere in a dizzying manner. The other half-martial ancestors of Enigma Palace attacked one after another and released terrifying Dharmic arts. The cultivation techniques that the half-martial ancestors cultivated were the foundational secret of Enigma Palace, the Mystic Firmament Record. The Mystic Firmament Record was created by Fairy Ling Long and was all-encompassing. Be it Dharmic arts, secret skills, sword arts, formation, elixir and weapon refinement techniques, they were all detailed within. More importantly, it was said that the human emperor chipped in to perfect it at the end of the book, causing the power of this cultivation technique to increase tremendously. The Dharmic arts of a half-martial ancestor were no small matter. Furthermore, there was a wisp of divine power in those Dharmic arts. No matter how strong the Dharmic powers of a conjoint body were or the grade of his cultivation techniques, they were no match for the Dharmic arts of a half-martial ancestor. On the other side, Heavenly Secrets did not attack Xueqi. He had a deeper understanding of the entire situation. On the surface, Xueqi was the greatest threat right now. However, in reality, Xueqi alone was not enough to deal with Enigma Palace. The key to this battle was to kill the Asura as soon as possible. Therefore, at the start of the battle, Heavenly Secrets left the battlefield and arrived above the Exquisite killing formation. Although he had a smile on his face, he released a killing move in his hands, prepared to kill Degenerations and the Asura within. When he saw that, Xueqi did not hesitate. He closed his sword fingers and conjured a sword art, roaring into the skies. Bang! Boom! Boom! Killing intent shook the heavens and countless stars appeared in the firmaments, shifting positions with chaotic trajectories. When the heavens' killing intent is released, the stars are shifted out of alignment. TSK! 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 One after another, sword chi burst forth from Xueqi's body in a blinding manner in tens of thousands. Half-Martial Ancestor Qian Tian and the others were shocked. The Battle of Baiming Town and Six Stars Mountain happened recently. Furthermore, it was relatively secretive and almost nobody saw it. Many experts of Enigma Palace knew that Xueqi knew the heaven-slaying sword art, but none of them knew that he had already comprehended it to that level. The heaven-slaying sword chi enveloped every single point of sight. Under normal circumstances, even the heaven-slaying sword chi could not fight against Dharmic arts that were fused with a single divine power given Xueqi's cultivation realm. However, there were way too many heaven-slaying sword chi. If one sword chi was not enough, he would use 10. If 10 was not enough, he would use 100 or 1,000. Although the gigantic sword conjured by half-martial ancestor Qian Tian was sharp and had a torrential sword chi, it was filled with injuries when it was struck by the 1,000 heaven-slaying sword chi and dissipated instantly. Half-martial ancestor Li Heng's mystic firmament Dharmic seal was riddled with holes by the heaven-slaying sword chi. The mystic firmament cyclone of half-martial ancestor divine turtle dove had already been pierced by the heaven-slaying sword chi and dissipated into the world. Bang! 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 10,000 sword chi burst forth and clashed against the Dharmic arts of the 10 half-martial ancestors of Enigma Palace, causing a deafening bang. The entire void was almost torn apart by the thousands of sword chi. The Dharmic powers in the battlefield surged. Even ordinary conjoint body mighty figures wouldn't be able to withstand such a collision and would be shredded into pieces by the various powers. That killing intent and sharpness were way too immense. The Dharmic arts of the 10 half-martial ancestors of Enigma Palace were blocked completely. Half-martial ancestor Qian Tian and the others had wary expressions and had no choice but to retreat slightly to avoid the sharpness of the heaven-slaying sword chi for the time being. Some of the mighty figures of Enigma Palace who were initially exchanging blows with Ming Zhan could not dodge in time and were slashed down by the incoming heaven-slaying sword chi. None of them had expected Xueqi to be able to release such a terrifying counterattack against the suppression of 10 half-martial ancestors. Seizing the opportunity, Xueqi's figure flashed and he released boundless golden light. Instantly, he arrived before Heavenly Secrets and raised the Creation Lotus platform, smashing it towards the latter's head. Heavenly Secrets wanted to kill the Asura and Degenerations. There was no way Xueqi would let him succeed. Chapter 1448. Celestial 5 Degenerations. Chapter 1448. Celestial 5 Degenerations. Unknowingly, a folding fan had already appeared in Heavenly Secrets' hands. The smile on Heavenly Secrets' face did not reduce when he saw Xueqi appear. He closed his folding fan and tapped towards Xueqi's Creation Lotus platform. The folding fan was about to collide with the Creation Lotus platform. The corners of Heavenly Secrets' lips curled as he revealed a strange smile. Suddenly, the folding fan in his hands changed directions and pointed forward. The folding fan tapped towards Xueqi's wrist. This time round, the variation was extremely small and it was a last-minute change. It was rather sentient and displayed Heavenly Secrets' powerful heart. Heavenly Secrets was definitely not weak to become the young master of Enigma Palace. It was not only in terms of his scheming and planning. His combat strength was extraordinary as well. Back in the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley, he could even fight Yen Beichen. If not for Monk Daming's secret attack to destroy Heavenly Secrets' blood refinement fiend Sutra, Yen Beichen would have been doomed in that battle. All right. Xueqi's spirit perception was strong and he sensed it before Heavenly Secrets changed tactics. He stopped in time and forcefully lifted his wrist. If his wrist were to collide with Heavenly Secrets' folding fan, even if it wasn't severely injured, the outcome wouldn't be good. Heavenly Secrets sneered coldly. He seized the opportunity to retreat and distance himself from Su Zimo. Desolate Marshal, do you really think that I'm afraid of you? Heavenly Secrets still had a smile on his face, as though he was in control of everything and was incomparably confident. Su Zimo's gaze landed on the half-martial ancestors of Enigma Palace who were charging over and suddenly shouted, "Your young master of Enigma Palace has cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra." The 10 half-martial ancestors paused for a moment. Most of the half-martial ancestors frowned and revealed puzzled expressions. The Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra was way too terrifying that even they were wary of it. If the young master of Enigma Palace were to cultivate it, things would get out of hand. Only half-martial ancestor Divine Turtle Dove and half-martial ancestor Qian Tian had calm expressions. Half-martial ancestor Divine Turtle Dove sneered, "Desolate Marshal, what nonsense are you spouting? You can't slander the young master of Enigma Palace casually." "That's right." Half-martial ancestor Qian Tian said coldly, "Desolate Marshal, you're the one who truly cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Back in the Battle of Myriad Phenomenon City, countless people witnessed you releasing the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, Fufu." At that point, the many half-martial ancestors of Enigma Palace nodded to themselves and the doubts they had vanished. Su Zimo furrowed his brows slightly. He had indeed cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, but he had sensed the danger in time and no longer used it. However, it was different for Heavenly Secrets. In order to cultivate his fiend techniques, Heavenly Secrets even set up a killing trap in Heaven and Earth Valley and schemed against countless sects and factions to refine the bloodlines of all the experts in the world. Although he and Heavenly Secrets cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, they were fundamentally different. However, there was no way to explain that. Nobody would believe him even if he explained it. Not far away, Heavenly Secrets smiled faintly with a mocking expression, as though he was mocking Su Zimo's unnecessary actions. "Desolate Marshal, why are you doing this?" Heavenly Secrets smiled gently. "It's fine if you don't believe me." Su Zimo had a calm expression. "Let's see how long you can last in my hands without using the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra." Since everyone from Enigma Palace did not believe him, Su Zimo would force Heavenly Secrets to use it in public. At that time, the truth would naturally be revealed. "Desolate Marshal, you underestimate me." Heavenly Secrets shook his head gently and retracted his smile gradually. "You've only just entered the conjoint body realm. Do you really think that you're invincible among your peers? It's enough to suppress you." Su Zimo's gaze intensified as he conjured hand seals. His body shone with the power of thunder and was blinding, as though he was in a thunderstorm. "All right." Heavenly Secrets nodded slightly. "I'll show you what I'm capable of." 5 celestial degenerations, first. Heavenly Secrets' hand shifted continuously as he conjured an extremely mysterious Dharmic art and pointed it at Su Zimo. A strange power descended. Su Zimo could not dodge at all. The Dharmic power that Su Zimo had just conjured dissipated rapidly. The power of thunder dimmed and vanished in the blink of an eye. Second degeneration, Essence Spirit Degeneration. Heavenly Secrets hollered and changed his hand seal, pointing at Su Zimo. A strange power descended on his essence spirit. As though his essence spirit was locked by an extremely terrifying power, the power of his essence spirit deteriorated at an extremely fast speed. Even though his essence spirit was fused with the Tao of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend sects and was pure and condensed, it could not defend against the corrosion of that power. At this speed, his essence spirit would probably wither within dozens of breaths. Su Zimo's expression changed slightly as he moved his palm and sent the creation lotus platform into his consciousness. The black-haired essence spirit strode onto the creation lotus platform and assumed a lotus position. Shoo! 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 The 63 lotus holes spewed out rays of green light that surrounded the black-haired essence spirit and gradually negated the power. Even so, Su Zimo broke out in cold sweat. Such methods were truly unheard of. There were many Dharmic arts and secret skills in the world. Even with his experience, he had never encountered such a terrifying secret skill. Phew! Right then, Heavenly Secrets chuckled. Not bad, You're actually able to withstand the first two powers of degeneration. After a brief pause, he changed the topic. However, there are 3 more. I want to see how long you can last in my hands. This was what Su Zimo said earlier on, and Heavenly Secrets returned it completely. Third degeneration, physical body degeneration. Heavenly Secrets pointed his Dharmic art at Su Zimo. Su Zimo furrowed his brows slightly. The strange power descended once more. But this time round, his flesh began to wither and his life force drained under the influence of that power. Before he could react, Heavenly Secrets' voice sounded once more. Fourth degeneration, bloodline degeneration. The moment he said that, Su Zimo's blood chi began to deteriorate and drain rapidly as well. His body was like a gigantic airbag with a hole punctured. His blood chi drained continuously at a shocking speed. His body and blood chi were failing at the same time. Heavenly Secrets had a smug expression as he smiled gently. The Dharmic art in his hands changed once more as he said slowly, fifth degeneration, lifespan degeneration. Instantly, Su Zimo's lifespan decreased continuously. A secret skill to reduce one's lifespan. Up till this point of his cultivation, apart from Baron from the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness, Su Zimo had not encountered a secret skill that could reduce one's lifespan. But today, he finally saw it on Heavenly Secrets. Although this secret skill was not as terrifying as Baron, it had the effect of decreasing one's lifespan by hundreds of years with a single breath. What was even more frightening was that the secret skill released by Heavenly Secrets did not merely reduce one's lifespan. It degenerated the 5 sources of power of a cultivator: Dharmic powers, essence spirits, physical body, bloodline and lifespan. These were the 5 degenerations of celestial beings. Chapter 1449. Appearance of the Asura. Chapter 1449. Appearance of the Asura. The celestial 5 degenerations used the power of heaven and earth to weaken the root of a cultivator's strength. There were very few people who could cultivate the secret skills of the mystic firmament record successfully. It was already rare for cultivators of Enigma Palace to cultivate the first 2 degenerations. Even from the ancient era till now, there were not many people who could cultivate the 5 degenerations completely. The celestial 5 degenerations was extremely powerful. If all 5 degenerations were released and used on a person at the same time, that person's Dharmic powers, essence spirit, physical body, bloodline and lifespan would be depleted. Even if that person did not die, he would be equivalent to a cripple. The scariest thing was that this person had to watch helplessly as his Dharmic powers, essence spirit, physical body, bloodline and lifespan withered. He had to endure the pain and suffering. In the ancient era, there were often cultivators who could not endure it before the end and committed suicide on the spot with their Tao hearts crushed. The fact that their cultivations that they had worked so hard till this point to grind was destroyed overnight was an experience worse than death. Su Zimo sensed the changes in his body with a cold expression. Heavenly Secrets' combat strength was indeed strong. If he had encountered Heavenly Secrets a few years ago, he would have been doomed. But now that his Green Lotus true body had undergone a complete transformation, Su Zimo was equivalent to a reborn Grade 7 creation Green Lotus. Legend has it that the creation Green Lotus was an utmost treasure of the upper world, and could only be born after seizing the creation of heaven and earth. No matter how strong the celestial 5 degenerations was, it merely borrowed the power of heaven and earth. Let's see if your celestial 5 degenerations or my Green Lotus true body is stronger. Su Zimo's gaze intensified as he channeled his bloodline with all his might. Under the envelopment of the power of the celestial 5 degenerations, his aura rose against the tide and surged rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he had broken through a critical point. Su Zimo's figure seemed to vanish from the spot, and in its place was a towering creation Green Lotus that connected heaven and earth. It was jade green and crystalline without any impurities. A gigantic lotus blossomed slowly with a dazzling glow. Bloodline phenomenon. This is Creation Green Lotus. The many half-martial ancestors of Enigma Palace exclaimed. Even Heavenly Secrets frowned. He could predict everything in the world and divine everyone except Su Zimo. Previously, he tried to divine Su Zimo's situation but nearly suffered a backlash and his essence spirit was almost destroyed. Ever since then, he no longer dared to attempt it. Be it the Battle of Biming Town or Heaven and Earth Valley, few people in the cultivation world knew about it. Less than that, they did not know that Su Zimo had already grown to such an extent. By the looks of it, Desolate Martial has already fused with the creation Green Lotus. How terrifying! As expected of the strongest monster incarnate in history. Does this mean that Desolate Martial will grow together with the creation Green Lotus and its cultivation will advance together with his? That's a little terrifying. If the creation Green Lotus grows to grade 8, even Emperor weapons won't be able to destroy it. Many half-martial ancestors of Enigma Palace could not help but exclaim when they saw that. The power of the Celestial 5 Degenerations gradually dissipated. Although the Celestial 5 Degenerations could weaken anyone, it could not do anything to the creation Green Lotus. Humph! Half-martial ancestor Divine Turtledove said coldly. What is there to be worried about? Let's join forces and kill Desolate Martial here to eliminate all future troubles once and for all. That's right. Half-martial ancestor Chen Tian nodded as well. Everyone, Desolate Martial colluded with a primordial taboo and has evil intentions. He's even more dangerous than the Asura and we can't let him leave. Half-martial ancestor Li Heng hesitated for a moment. However, when he saw that the two half-martial ancestors, Divine Turtledove and Chen Tian, had already charged forward, he could only attack as well. 10 half-martial ancestors charged forward once more. The creation Green Lotus swayed gently and released a terrifying power. The void was like a calm lake that suddenly rippled. The 10 half-martial ancestors had grim expressions. Although the ripples looked weak, they were extremely terrifying. Even their bodies would be crushed if they were rammed by it. The 10 half-martial ancestors controlled their destiny Dharmic weapons and blocked in front of them, neutralizing the incoming ripples. They did not have an easy time defending against the ripples. The 10 half-martial ancestors shuddered and looked at Su Zimo with even more caution in their eyes. Bang! 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 After a slight breather, Heavenly Secrets joined forces with the 10 half-martial ancestors and counterattacked. Dharmic arts tore through the air and the power of half-martial ancestors descended. They surged and struck the creation Green Lotus. The attacks rained down like a violent storm and the creation Green Lotus bent from the wind several times and was almost crushed. However, the creation Green Lotus straightened its body before long and stood proudly. The storm was intensifying. Finally, this creation Green Lotus of the universe could not hold on any longer. The lotus leaves on the Green Lotus were riddled with holes and wounds appeared on its stem as well. Su Zimo could not withstand it and his human figure reappeared. Desolate Martial, you're finished. Heavenly Secret said coldly. Not necessarily. As Su Zimo's blood chi surged, the wounds on his body healed rapidly. His gaze inadvertently landed on the exquisite killing formation beneath. At that moment, two figures walked out slowly from the exquisite killing formation. Heavenly Secrets' expression changed. As though he realized something, his figure swayed and he suddenly dodged into the distance. Right then, a pitch-black saber beam descended from the skies, slashing in the direction of Heavenly Secrets with endless hatred and torrential killing intent. Heavenly Secrets had sensed it long ago and avoided it first. Another half-martial ancestor of Enigma Palace who was standing there as well did not have the same luck. When the half-martial ancestor saw that he could not dodge, he raised the saber in his hands instinctively, wanting to defend and find another chance to escape. Clang! The pitch-black saber beam struck his saber. The saber beam shuddered and revealed its true form. It was the Asura, Yen Beichen's hatred fiend saber. The fiend chi intensified. The saber of the half-martial ancestor of Enigma Palace shattered instantly. The saber beam expanded and cut the half-martial ancestor of Enigma Palace into two. Fresh blood gushed out. The half-martial ancestor of Enigma Palace channeled his Dharmic powers fanatically, and wanted to reconstruct the lower half of his body. However, the pitch-black fiend chi on the hatred fiend saber had already surged into his body through the wound. Not only did that fiend chi contain the hatred fiend chi, there was also the Asura fiend chi. The power of hatred and killing dominated the body of the half-martial ancestor of Enigma Palace and destroyed all life. If this half-martial ancestor of Enigma Palace were to abandon his body and escape from the battlefield with his essence spirit, he could still survive. By the time he realized, it was already too late. Fiend Qi surged into his spirit platform and tore through his consciousness, devouring his essence spirit. In the blink of an eye, his essence spirit was destroyed and he died. A half-martial ancestor of Enigma Palace was dead. Heavenly secrets, pay with your life. A roar filled with hatred and killing intent sounded in the world. Anyone who heard it could sense the grief and indignation in it. Up till this point of the battle, Su Zimo had finally won some time. The Asura had reappeared. Chapter 1450, Tricked. Chapter 1450, Tricked. In the depths of the heaven-expanding mountain range, in a long tunnel, two furtive figures were advancing carefully. Little Fatty walked at the front with a map in his left hand and a geomantic compass in his right. From time to time, he would match the map and continue digging. The commotion of Enigma Palace seems a little too great. Xueqi followed behind and muttered softly. At that moment, they were deep underground and the voices of the people above could no longer be heard. However, the sounds of the battle broke out from time to time. The ground shook and mud would splash occasionally. Although they had yet to even catch sight of the tomb, their faces were covered in dirt. Who knows? Logically speaking, the Asura should have been killed by the Exquisite killing formation a long time ago. Could something have happened? Xueqi shook his head. By the time Su Zimo and the others arrived, Xueqi and Little Fatty had already dug underground and did not know what was happening above. They merely heard the endless sounds of battle. Who cares? The more they fight, the better. That way, we won't have any chance of being exposed. Xueqi shook his head and said casually before continuing to study the treasure map. Are you sure you can do it? It's been so long but we haven't even caught a glimpse of the tomb. Xueqi came over and grumbled. Little Fatty was also sweating profusely as he said embarrassedly, the location of this tomb is indeed difficult to locate. Furthermore, there are many seals. Along the way, we've already broken dozens of seals. There's truly something strange about this heaven-expanding mountain range. Ever since we entered, my geomantic compass is no longer useful and I can't differentiate directions. Are we lost? Xueqi was shocked. No. Little Fatty shook his head hurriedly. Don't worry. Judging from the location of the map, we're almost there. This tomb is so secluded with many layers of seals, there's definitely great treasures within. Hurry and work harder. Little Fatty urged. Xueqi controlled the 5 elements puppets and continued to dig forward according to Little Fatty's instructions. Using the puppets to open up the path would save time and energy. Furthermore, he and Little Fatty won't be implicated even if there were any dangers. A moment later, Little Fatty hollered, "Stop!" Xueqi's spirit consciousness moved and the 5 elements puppets stopped. Look at the location. It should be around the left side. I'll do it personally. Rubbing his chubby palms, Little Fatty raised his spatula and started digging to the left. Before long, he lifted the spatula. Little Fatty's eyes lit up as he grinned. Success! I finally dug through it. I'll go and pick my treasures first. Xueqi was invigorated and pushed Little Fatty away hurriedly. He dug around the hole a few times before entering through it. He was halfway in when he raised his head and was stunned. Little Fatty was waiting at the back. When he saw Xueqi stop halfway through the climb, he could not help but urge, "Hurry and go in. Don't stay here." Unable to wait any longer, Little Fatty pushed Xueqi over with both hands before climbing ahead himself. After entering the tomb, Little Fatty looked around excitedly with widened eyes. The chamber was a little strange. It was not big and could be seen at a glance. It was empty with nothing but a person. Stunned, Little Fatty glared at the person before him with widened eyes. Why was there someone here? That person's back was facing them and he exuded a life force. Clearly, he was not a dead man but a living being. Right then, the person turned around slowly and sighed. You guys are finally here. You're killing me. Lin Xuanji. Little Fatty and Shi exclaimed. The person in the chamber was Lin Xuanji, who had invited the two of them here. How unlucky, Shi remarked indignantly, to think that this lad beat us to it and wasted our efforts again. Something's not right. Little Fatty frowned. He looked around and felt that something was amiss. This isn't a tomb chamber. Shi gradually came to his senses as well and mumbled, "This looks like a prison." Lin Xuanji coughed gently with an embarrassed expression. Gradually, Little Fatty realized something and yelled, "Lin Xuanji, fuck. You were locked here and actually created a treasure map to trick the two of us here to dig a tomb." Little Fatty charged forward with bloodshot eyes and a furious expression. He gripped Lin Xuanji's neck tightly, wanting nothing more than to kill the latter. "Fuck. Lin Xuanji, you sure are evil." Shi snapped out of his stupor as well and could not help but curse. All right. That's enough." Lin Xuanji struggled for a moment before heaving a sigh of relief and saying while panting, "I'm not lying. There are indeed treasures here." "Where? Take them out." Little Fatty spread his hands and demanded angrily. From the looks of it, if Lin Xuanji could not produce any treasures, he would have to rush up and kill the latter. Lin Xuanji coughed and pointed to himself, saying self-righteously, "I'm the greatest treasure. What treasure is more precious than me?" Fuck. Little Fatty and Shi felt their stomachs rumble and almost vomited on the spot. The two of them truly had no way of dealing with such a shameless person. "Silly Jian, haven't you been pestering me to let you pick a treasure? This great treasure is for you." Little Fatty pointed at Lin Xuanji. Shi face was filled with rejection as he remarked in disdain, "I don't want that. This old lad is way too much. He's even more of a scam than you." "Brothers, I had no choice either," Lin Xuanji explained. "I was plotted against by my fellow sect mates and was locked here with no way out." "What about the treasure map you sent out?" Little Fatty glanced askance. "I still have some tricks up my sleeves. It's not difficult for me to send a message." Lin Xuanji said, "No matter how much I think about it, only two of you can save me. Brothers, you've been in the tomb robbing business for many years and are experienced. No one can match you. Be it the tomb of a mighty figure or a patriarch, both of you are able to come and go as you please. There are layers of seals beneath here and no one can determine the direction. Brothers, the two of you were the only ones who could go against all odds to locate this place eventually. Brothers, although you're only Dharma characteristic Tao lords, even conjoint body mighty figures and Mahayana patriarchs can't compare to such methods of yours. Given your capabilities, both of you will definitely leave your names in history." Little Fatty had a glib tongue and praised Little Fatty and Shi fervently. Shi was already completely lost and immersed in the fantasy of having his name passed down through history. Little Fatty was the only one who was trying his best to control himself. However, he could not stop the smugness in his eyes. Cough. Finally, Little Fatty coughed gently and waved it off pretentiously. "It's better to keep a low profile for something like this. It's enough that you know about it. Don't spread it. We're brothers, not people who value fame and fortune." Shi added. "Yes." Lin Xuanji nodded hurriedly. "Brothers, you are the most aloof from worldly affairs among the people I know. Brothers, you have righteous personalities and you're filled with the strongest sense of justice." Little Fatty and Shi were invigorated and beamed brightly. Suddenly, it felt as though this trip was completely worth it. Lin Xuanji rolled his eyes. Even if the two of them could take it, he was almost about to throw up from whatever he was saying. Chapter 1451. Might of the Tao Fire. Chapter 1451. Might of the Tao Fire. Demonist Ji brought Yen Beichen out of the Exquisite killing formation. Yen Beichen had been suppressing a surge of hatred and anger in his heart the entire time. As the hatred was vented with that single slash, a half-martial ancestor of Enigma Palace was killed on the spot. Of course, the reason why the half-martial ancestor of Enigma Palace died was also because he had fought Su Zimo previously. Right now, he was no longer at his peak. Furthermore, his attention was entirely focused on Su Zimo, He had not expected such a terrifying slash to be released from below. The moment the Asura appeared, the situation changed instantly. When Su Zimo was alone, the 10 half-martial ancestors of Enigma Palace and a monster incarnate like Heavenly Secrets were already in a stalemate with him. Now that there was an additional Asura with torrential hatred and a murderous aura while Enigma Palace was missing a half-martial ancestor, the situation took a turn for the worse. "I'll help Ming Zhan." Demoness Ji knew very well that given her combat strength, even if she helped Su Zimo, it would be difficult for her to pose much of a threat to half-martial ancestor experts. On the other side, Ming Zhan was fighting against 100 mighty figures of Enigma Palace alone and could barely hold on. With light steps, she arrived on the battlefield and smiled at the mighty figures of Enigma Palace, exhaling with a sweet fragrance. "Everyone, do you really want to be enemies with me?" After cultivating the Pure Maiden Sutra, Demoness Ji exuded an indescribable and unstoppable charm. Even women would want to get close to her unconsciously, let alone men. This was a true charm that could turn the world upside down. On the other side, Yen Beichen no longer had anyone else in his eyes. He was completely immersed within his own hatred. There was no life and death or reservations in his heart, there was only a single thought: to kill Heavenly Secrets and take revenge for Qin Pian Ran. Yen Beichen's eyes were pitch black and were completely occupied by the hatred fiend Qi. Heavenly Secrets suddenly felt chills run down his spine as he looked at the pitch-black fiend eyes. This was Enigma Palace after all. Even with the Asura and Desolate Marshal, they won't be able to cause any trouble. However, against a lunatic like the Asura, Heavenly Secrets suddenly felt regret. To be precise, he was the one who created this generation's Asura. Yen Beichen was already covered in injuries after taking 209 steps in the Exquisite killing formation. However, at that moment, he did not feel any pain. He soared into the air and charged towards Heavenly Secrets with a hatred fiend saber. "Die, fiend!" Half-martial ancestor Divine Turtle Dove hollered and slapped his storage bag. A golden streak of light flew out and lunged towards Yen Beichen. The golden light was not a Dharmic weapon, but a living being. Su Zimo could clearly see that it was a bird, a divine turtle dove. The divine turtle dove was a pure-blooded ferocious beast, and it was said that it possessed the bloodline of a 3D golden crow. When cultivated to its limits, it could even transform into a true 3D golden crow. This divine turtle dove was extremely fast and had a powerful bloodline. Its body burned with golden flames, and by the looks of it, it was on the verge of transformation. Yen Beichen did not stop in his tracks, as though he had not seen the divine turtle dove at all. The other half-martial ancestors attacked as well. Although Yen Beichen was unable to extricate himself from the depths of his hatred and killing instincts, he had absolute trust in Su Zimo. He knew that Su Zimo would definitely help him stop the others. Su Zimo made a move. A pair of wings grew from Su Zimo's back and lightning flashed on his body. Releasing boundless golden light, his speed was at its limits. His movement technique was even faster than the divine turtle dove, and he stopped it before extending his palm to grab the ladder. The divine turtle dove let out a long cry and its gaze was ferocious. The flames on its body intensified as it reached out with its sharp claws, wanting to tear Su Zimo's palm apart. "Beast, how dare you act so brazenly before me?" Su Zimo hollered, "Notwithstanding the fact that you haven't transformed into a golden crow, I've even killed a true 3D golden crow." In the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley, this Green Lotus true body had indeed killed beings of the golden crow race. Against the sharp claws of the divine turtle dove, Su Zimo's palm had no intention of dodging and grabbed over. No matter how sharp the divine turtle dove's claws were, they could not injure the Green Lotus true body. In a flash, Su Zimo had already gripped the divine turtle dove in his palm and exerted strength. Groar! The divine turtle dove shrieked into the skies. It was too skinny and was not even the size of Su Zimo's palm. How could it withstand his burst power? "Desolate Marshal, how dare you!" Half-martial ancestor Divine Turtle Dove roared. For so many years, that Divine Turtle Dove had been by his side ever since he started cultivating. Even his Tao title was Divine Turtle Dove. This Divine Turtle Dove was more important to him than anything. However, he was facing Desolate Marshal. Desolate Marshal was not afraid of his threat at all. Exerting strength in his palm, Su Zimo crushed the divine turtle dove and fresh blood gushed out. Its essence spirit could not even manage to escape and it was killed by Su Zimo's palm. Even with the death of the divine turtle dove, the flames on its body did not extinguish and burned on Su Zimo's palm. Desolate Marshal, the flames of the divine turtle dove will never extinguish. The flames of the divine turtle dove will burn you to ashes. Even if you're the green lotus true body, nothing will change. Half-Marshal Ancestor Divine Turtle Dove said coldly. Not necessarily. Su Zimo sneered and swiftly conjured hand seals with his flaming palm. Swoosh. Suddenly, 3 flames burned in Su Zimo's palm. Scarlet. Immortal Tao Fire. Golden. Buddhist Tao Fire. Black. Fiend Tao Fire. The 3 Tao fires burned and suppressed the divine turtle dove's flames in Su Zimo's palm instantly, devouring it without a trace. The attacks of Half-Marshal Ancestor Qian Tian and the others descended. Su Zimo's expression was cold but his eyes seemed to be burning with 2 flames. He threw out the 3 Tao fires in his hands and hollered, Kacharati Tao Fire. Before his sentence was finished, an essence spirit flame burst forth from Su Zimo's essence spirit and fused into the 3 Tao fires. The flames intensified and surged into the air, engulfing towards Half-Marshal Ancestor Qian Tian and the others. The might of the Kacharati Tao fire was extremely strong and could threaten Half-Marshal Ancestors. Back on 6 Stars Mountain, the reason why the Kacharati Tao fire was suppressed so easily was mainly because it was not condensed enough. The power of the Kacharati Tao fire was spread across the entire 6 Stars Mountain, and was naturally not a threat to conjoint body mighty figures and Half-Marshal Ancestor experts. However, it was different at that moment. The Kacharati Tao fire rained down and only targeted the 9 Half-Marshal Ancestors of Enigma Palace. A Half-Marshal Ancestor of Enigma Palace wanted to fight it head-on with a Dharmic art. However, he did not expect his Dharmic art to be burned into nothingness the moment he released it. Even his Destiny Dharmic weapon dimmed in the sea of flames. The Half-Marshal Ancestor realized that something was amiss and wanted to retreat, but it was already too late. Sparks flew and landed on his body. In the blink of an eye, it expanded against the wind and he turned into a gigantic human-shaped fireball. The Half-Marshal Ancestor of Enigma Palace struggled and howled in pain. No matter how he channeled the Dharmic powers of his bloodline, the Kacharati Tao fire on his body could not be extinguished. The vitality of a Half-Marshal Ancestor was way too exuberant. If it was any ordinary conjoint body mighty figure, they would have been burned to ashes in the blink of an eye. The flames on the body of the Half-Marshal Ancestor of Enigma Palace lasted for more than 10 breaths before gradually extinguishing, leaving only ashes that scattered in the void. Chapter 1452. Dharmic Breaking Bow. Chapter 1452. Dharmic Breaking Bow. The Kacharati Tao fire descended and another Half-Marshal Ancestor of Enigma Palace died. Half-Marshal Ancestor Qian Tian and the others were also in the Tao fire and defended with all their might. All of them had ugly expressions and were drenched in sweat. On the other side, Yen Beichen clashed against Heavenly Secrets. Under normal circumstances, after cultivating the Hatred Sutra and Asura Sutra, Yen Beichen's combat strength should be even above Heavenly Secrets. However, he was injured and coupled with the fact that Heavenly Secrets had many methods, the two of them were in a stalemate and it was difficult to determine the victor within a short period of time. Su Zimo controlled the Kacharati Tao fire and Dharmic powers surged endlessly. Burn it! In Su Zimo's consciousness, the Creation Lotus platform spun slowly and released rays of light that circled around the black-haired essence spirit, nourishing it and replenishing its power. If not for the Creation Lotus platform, Su Zimo would have collapsed a long time ago. The Kacharati Tao fire burned into the skies and trapped the remaining 8 Half-Marshal Ancestors of Enigma Palace within, causing the flames to burn stronger and more exuberant. Everyone, I don't want to be enemies with Enigma Palace. Su Zimo said in a deep voice, as long as you stay in the Tao fire quietly, you won't be in any danger. He was not Yen Beichen after all. He could still maintain his composure. Nobody knew if this matter was done by Heavenly Secrets alone or masterminded by Enigma Palace. At the end of the day, Su Zimo was on good terms with Lin Xuanji. Furthermore, He had interacted with an old man from Enigma Palace, and the latter did not seem like a bad person. As long as Lin Xuanji or the old man appeared, today's matter should end. Desolate Marshal, you killed a half-martial ancestor of our sect and you expect to stay out of things. Half-martial ancestor Chen Tian sneered. Half-martial ancestor Divine Turtledove said coldly, "That's right, Desolate Marshal. You killed my spirit beast and barged into my palace. You and the Asura will have to die here today. The two of you had better shut up." Su Zimo's gaze was icy as he said slowly, "Otherwise, I'll send the two of you on your way first." Humph. Right then, a cold harumph sounded from Enigma Palace with immense rage and endless might. "You're Desolate Marshal? You sure are cocky to act so brazenly in front of Enigma Palace." Accompanied by that shout, a figure rose slowly from Enigma Palace, emitting an endless might as his burning gaze landed on Su Zimo. Palace Lord. Half-martial ancestor Chen Tian and the others were delighted and exclaimed when they saw that figure. This was the current Palace Lord of Enigma Palace, half-martial ancestor Qing Zhe. "Desolate Marshal, you're finished." Half-martial ancestor Divine Turtledove turned to look at Su Zimo with a mocking expression and smiled. The Palace Lord was initially in seclusion. Now that you've alarmed him, even immortals won't be able to save you. "I'll burn you first." Su Zimo channeled his essence spirit and the Kacharati Dao fire intensified, surging towards half-martial ancestor Divine Turtledove. Half-martial ancestor Chen Tian and the others hurriedly attacked and helped half-martial ancestor Divine Turtledove defend against Su Zimo's attack. Right then, the Palace Lord of Enigma Palace, half-martial ancestor Qing Zhe, took out a gigantic bow from his storage bag. It was green all over and resembled jade. When the jade bow was taken out, the Dharmic powers in the void seemed to be drawn towards it. Su Zimo furrowed his brows slightly. It was an extremely special bow that he seemed to have seen in an ancient book. Suddenly, half-martial ancestor Qing Zhe picked up the jade bow and drew the bowstring. The bow was like a full moon. However, there was no arrow on the bow. In Su Zimo's confusion, the Dharmic powers around half-martial ancestor Qing Zhe surged towards his fingertip as though they had gone mad. In the blink of an eye, a Dharmic power arrow was condensed on the bowstring. As for the Dharmic powers around half-martial ancestor Qing Zhe, they were sucked dry by the jade bow. The moment that Dharmic power arrow was formed, Su Zimo's hair stood on end. Swoosh! Half-martial ancestor Qing Zhe released his hand and the arrow tore through the air. It was not aimed at Su Zimo, but the ancient unique treasure, the mystic magnet mountain, that was in midair. Boom! There was a loud bang. It was deafening. The mystic magnet mountain that was 1,000 feet tall was shot down from midair by the Dharmic power arrow. It shrank continuously and its glow dimmed as it fell to the ground. The many Dharmic weapons that were initially sucked on the mystic magnet mountain broke free and returned to the control of many mighty figures of Enigma Palace. The mighty figures of Enigma Palace were invigorated. Without the restriction of the mystic magnet mountain, Ming Zhen and Demonis Ji's situation began to turn grim. Zimo, watch out. That's one of the unique treasures, the Dharmic breaking bow. Right then, Demonis Ji's voice sounded. Su Zimo let out a look of realization as he finally recalled the origin of that bow. The Dharmic breaking bow was one of the unique treasures and was ranked alongside the mystic magnet mountain. However, among the 7 unique treasures, the Dharmic breaking bow was the #1 in offense. More importantly, a single arrow from the Dharmic breaking bow could break all Dharmic arts. No Dharmic art could withstand a single blow from the Dharmic breaking bow. After shooting the mystic magnet mountain, half-martial ancestor Qing Zhe's gaze turned towards Su Zimo. "You're next." Although his voice was calm, it possessed a supreme might that was unquestionable. Suddenly, half-martial ancestor Qing Zhe drew his bow. Another Dharmic power arrow condensed on his bow and absorbed all the Dharmic powers in the surroundings. Swoosh! The arrow tore through the air and passed through the Kacharati Dao fire. A terrifying scene unfolded. Everywhere the arrow passed, it absorbed the surrounding Dharmic powers fanatically. Even the Kacharati Dao fire could not defend against it. The arrow was extremely fast and passed through the Kacharati Dao fire. Instead of diminishing, its power climbed to its limits. However, the Kachirati Dao fire was already extinguished. The Dharmic power of the Dao fire was completely absorbed by the arrow and naturally could not burn the latter. An arrow was enough to destroy the Kachirati Dao fire. Furthermore, the power of the arrow became even more terrifying after absorbing the Dharmic power of the Kachirati Dao fire. In the blink of an eye, it arrived before Su Zimo. It was too fast. Even with his spirit perception, Su Zimo could not react in time. The creation lotus platform was in his consciousness, nourishing his essence spirit and could not be taken out in time. Su Zimo could only raise his hands and try to grab the arrow. Fufu. You overestimate yourself. Half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe sneered when he saw that. Bang! In a flash, Su Zimo closed his palm and grabbed the Dharmic power arrow. However, the power of that arrow was way too strong. Even Su Zimo could not grab it at all, and could only try his best to negate some of the power of the arrow. Swoosh! The arrow pierced through his hands. Su Zimo's palm was torn by the arrow and was dripping with blood. The arrow pierced right into Su Zimo's chest. It flew out of his back. The grade 7 green lotus true body was almost indestructible. However, it was pierced by the Dharmic breaking bow with a single arrow. Normally speaking, the power of the Dharmic breaking bow would not have reached this level. However, the reason why the Dharmic breaking bow could become an ancient unique treasure was because the arrow could absorb Dharmic powers to strengthen itself. This arrow could only possess such terrifying might after absorbing the Dharmic powers of the Kachirati Dao fire. Chapter 1453. Essence Spirit Fight. Chapter 1453. Essence Spirit Fight. A bloody hole appeared on Su Zimo's chest and blood gushed out like a fountain. Zimo! Demoness Ji exclaimed with deep worry in her beautiful eyes. Su Zimo stood in midair with a cold expression, as though he could not feel any pain at all. He merely looked at the Palace Lord of Enigma Palace, half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe, who was not far away. The Green Lotus True Body had never suffered such a serious injury after transforming into a grade 7 creation Green Lotus. If it was anyone else, that arrow that pierced their chest would have destroyed all life in their body. However, Su Zimo's Green Lotus True Body was equivalent to a grade 7 creation Green Lotus with exuberant vitality. Even after receiving such a serious injury, his vitality surged and healed his wounds wildly. This Dharmic breaking bow was troublesome to deal with. Any Dharmic art released would be absorbed by the Dharmic breaking bow and turned into its power. However, Su Zimo believed that no matter how strong a Dharmic weapon was, it would definitely have flaws. Right then, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he vaguely realized something. Lapse. Time lapse. As an ancient unique treasure, the bow that was shot out was not a true arrow, but a Dharmic power arrow. In other words, activating the Dharmic breaking bow was equivalent to activating a Dharmic art. For the same Dharmic art to be activated again, there had to be a time lapse for the essence spirit to catch a breather. The logic was the same as how one had to retract their fist before making a second punch after punching. In fact, some of the more terrifying Dharmic arts required a longer lapse. After half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe shot the mystic magnet mountain, he did not shoot a second arrow immediately. Instead, he waited for a moment before shooting a second arrow at Su Zimo. At that moment, half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe did not attack immediately as well after shooting the second arrow. Although the lapse was short, Su Zimo noticed it still. Desolate Marshal, you're quite capable to defend against an arrow from the Dharmic breaking bow. Half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe said indifferently, however, I'll take your life with this second arrow. I don't think you have a chance anymore. Su Zimo's gaze intensified as he touched his glabella gently with his fingers. Closing his sword finger, he pointed towards half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe and shouted, Green Lotus Sword, slash. Beams of green light spewed out. The 63 green lotus seeds rapidly formed a sword in midair and slashed towards half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe. This was a killing technique targeted at the essence spirit and was one of Su Zimo's strongest trump cards. Among his peers, Monk Daming was the only one who could defend against that killing move unscathed. Half-martial ancestor Qing Zai's expression changed slightly. He could naturally sense the terrifying sharpness of the green lotus sword. Before it arrived, his essence spirit already felt a vague pain. Mystic Firmament / Half-martial ancestor Qing Zai did not dare to be careless and hurriedly condensed his spirit consciousness to release an essence spirit secret skill to defend against it. Lunatic. Half-martial ancestor Qian Tian cursed, "This desolate martial is truly a lunatic." Usually, essence spirit secret skills were not used casually at their cultivation realm. Fights between essence spirits were the most dangerous. Once their essence spirit suffered any damage, they might never be able to advance to the Mahayana realm in their lifetime. There was an insurmountable chasm between the conjoint body and Mahayana realm. Even with the cultivation realm of a half-martial ancestor as a buffer, it was still extremely difficult for one to truly advance to the Mahayana realm. Typically, after cultivating to the half-martial ancestor realm, they would enter seclusion in the sect and work hard to comprehend heaven and earth, divine powers and attempt to break through to the Mahayana realm. Therefore, there were very few traces of half-martial ancestors in the cultivation world. If Su Zimo had not appeared out of nowhere and was invincible against his peers such that conjoint body mighty figures could not do anything to him, these half-martial ancestors would not have appeared. To think that Su Zimo would have used an essence spirit secret skill at this point of the battle. Half-martial ancestor Qian Tian and the others cursed angrily. However, they could not stand by idly and hurriedly condensed their spirit consciousnesses to release their essence spirit secret skills. Essence spirit secret skills burst forth one after another and attacked Su Zimo. In a flash, Su Zimo charged towards half-martial ancestor Qing Zai. At the same time, he conjured a secret skill once more and tapped his glabella to withdraw a spirit consciousness whip that shone with electric arcs. Spirit Vanquishing Whip. Piak. Su Zimo swung the whip and whipped an essence spirit secret skill, causing it to dissipate on the spot into emptiness. Ugh! The expression of the half-martial ancestor of Enigma Palace changed as he grunted. His essence spirit endured quite a shock in his consciousness. The Thunder Emperor's essence spirit secret skill. Half-martial ancestor Li Hang had a grim expression and recognized it quickly. Piak, piak, piak. Su Zimo swung the spirit vanquishing whip and it only dispersed after crushing 4 essence spirit secret skills. He had just entered the conjoint body realm and it was already his limit to release such an attack with the Thunder Emperor's secret skill. There were 4 other essence spirit secret skills from the half-martial ancestors of Enigma Palace. Normally, it should be enough to kill Su Zimo. However, half-martial ancestor Qian Tian and the others glared at Su Zimo nervously. Unless they saw Su Zimo die with their own eyes, they did not know what would happen next. True enough. The moment Su Zimo's spirit vanquishing whip shattered, a blinding golden light burst forth from his glabella and formed a mysterious symbol in midair. That single word possessed an incomparably divine power that seemed like it could suppress and cleanse all evil. It was another essence spirit secret skill, the Rulai Dharmic seal. The symbol collided with the essence spirit secret skills of the 4 Enigma Palace half-martial ancestors. It was silent but emanated an extremely terrifying spirit consciousness fluctuation that spread in all directions like ripples. The void distorted as though it wanted to tear everything apart. The remaining 8 half-martial ancestors of Enigma Palace retreated with wary expressions. However, Su Zimo relied on the Creation Lotus platform to protect his essence spirit and pass through the ripples, arriving before half-martial ancestor Qing Zai. At the same time, half-martial ancestor Qing Zai's mystic firmament / collided with the green lotus sword as well. The collision of the 2 powers seemed to have frozen the world. There was a momentary pause. The mystic firmament / dissipated. The green lotus sword scattered down as well, turning into dark green lotus seeds that returned to Su Zimo's consciousness. After dissipating, the green lotus seeds could recover their vitality after returning to the Creation Lotus platform to be nourished for a short period of time. However, the essence spirit of half-martial ancestor Qing Zai received an immense shock in this essence spirit fight. In fact, a faint scar appeared on his essence spirit. His essence spirit was injured. Although the wounds on the essence spirit were thin, it was extremely difficult to recover and there was a high chance it would require years of recuperation. If he could not recover completely, he would be stuck at the half-martial Ancestor realm forever and would never be able to advance to the Ancestor realm. Desolate Martial. Half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe was enraged and raised the Dharmic breaking bow in his hands, wanting to shoot a third arrow. Right then, his vision blurred and a figure descended before him. The figure attacked right away and released an extremely tragic aura. You! Half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe had not expected Su Zimo to close in after the Essence Spirit fight. He did not even have time to release his Dharmic breaking bow. That was also a weakness of the Dharmic bow. If he was closed in, the ancient unique treasure would become a burden. Chapter 1454. Bow Snatch. Invincible. Chapter 1454. Bow Snatch. Invincible. Half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe channeled his blood qi and punched in reverse towards Su Zimo's fist as well. Bang! The two fists collided. In fact, both he and Su Zimo could hear the jarring sound of their bones grinding against flesh. It was an even split. A tremendous recoil burst forth. A look of mockery flashed through half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe's eyes. Using the recoil, he retreated rapidly, wanting to distance himself from Su Zimo. All of a sudden, his expression changed. After the two fists collided, Su Zimo's fist suddenly turned into a palm and became soft. He went from extreme toughness to extreme gentleness without any sluggishness. The soft palm landed on half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe's fist and coiled and trembled. An extremely terrifying power burst forth. Half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe could clearly sense that his arm was being torn apart by a distortion and felt a piercing pain. Ah! He shrieked. The flesh on his arm exploded and his entire arm turned into a blood mist. Su Zimo strode forward and extended both hands. In a flash, he grabbed the two arms of half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe and thrust his knees forward like a sprinting stallion, charging forward viciously. Although the Green Lotus True Body was not as strong as the Dragon Phoenix Body, the killing techniques of the mystic classic of the 12 Demon Kings of the Great Wilderness were still unusually terrifying when used. Snap! Half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe's chest caved in deeply. Under the impact of the two different powers, his arms were torn off by Su Zimo and blood gushed out in an extremely tragic manner. Ah! Half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe cried out in pain once more with a pale expression. His body that lost his arms trembled slightly in midair, almost convulsing. This sudden change stunned many experts present. The moment half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe appeared, he suppressed the situation in a domineering manner and almost shot Su Zimo to death. Nobody expected the tides to reverse in the blink of an eye. Half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe was closed in by Su Zimo and was nearly killed. Despite being severely injured, Half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe could still stand in midair and channel his Dharmic powers fanatically. His two arms regrew at a speed visible to the naked eye. The broken bones in his chest were healing rapidly as well. The sound of a tsunami echoed from within the body of half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe. Tsunami blood. Combat strength was definitely not the most important factor for someone to oversee Enigma Palace and become its lord. That was because the Palace Lord had to manage a massive sect and deal with many complicated matters. It would definitely take a lot of energy for him to manage the disciples. It was the same for the major sects and factions. However, anyone who could become the Palace Lord of Enigma Palace was definitely not someone easy to deal with. Although he was severely injured, half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe was able to calm down rapidly and heal his body with his powerful bloodline. It was clear how strong his mind was. Unfortunately, the situation was no longer in his control. Initially, it was nothing much for half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe's arms to be snapped. However, his severed arm was gripping the ancient unique treasure, the Dharmic breaking bow. Right now, the Dharmic breaking bow was in Su Zimo's hands. You shot me once. Su Zimo looked at half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe and said coldly, I'll return you the shot. Before his sentence was finished, Su Zimo pulled the Dharmic breaking bow and a mysterious feeling appeared. Dharmic powers gathered wildly at his fingertips. In the blink of an eye, a Dharmic power arrow appeared. Half-martial Ancestor Qingzhe's expression changed starkly. Swoosh! His bow was like a full moon and the arrows were like shooting stars. The Dharmic power arrow tore through the air at an astonishing speed and tore through the void, absorbing all the Dharmic powers in the surroundings. The speed of the arrow increased exponentially and was almost upon him. He could not use Dharmic arts to defend against the Dharmic breaking bow's arrow. Otherwise, the power of the Dharmic breaking bow would only increase tremendously. Half-martial Ancestor Qing Zai's reaction was extremely fast. A gigantic ancient mirror floated out from his glabella and grew rapidly, blocking in front of him. Boom! The Dharmic power arrow collided with the ancient mirror and let out a loud bang. Crack, crack, crack. The ancient mirror shattered instantly. Countless shards flew back and entered half-martial Ancestor Qing Zai's body, almost riddling him with holes as blood gushed out. This time round, half-martial Ancestor Qing Zai could no longer hold on and fell from midair. His face was pale and his eyes were dim. The cultivators were shocked. When they saw that, the cultivators of Enigma Palace were in an uproar. Some of the low-level cultivators of Enigma Palace could not leave the palace due to their cultivation realms and could only watch the battle from within. However, the scene of their palace lord shot down by a single arrow from Desolate Marshal had a way too huge impact on them. A mighty figure of Enigma Palace hurriedly moved and helped half-martial Ancestor Qing Zai up from midair. Attack! Right then, Heavenly Secrets, who was fighting against the Asura, suddenly shouted, "The Dharmic breaking bow requires a lapse and you can't shoot consecutively." Half-martial Ancestor Chen Tian and the others reacted and attacked. Bang! 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 Powerful Dharmic arts descended once more. That's good as well. I'll let you guys have a taste of the power of this Dharmic breaking bow. Su Zimo said coldly. Under countless gazes, he pulled the bowstring once more and Dharmic powers gathered rapidly as another Dharmic power arrow appeared. Impossible! Even half-martial Ancestor Qing Zai exclaimed when he saw that. The Dharmic breaking bow had just fired an arrow. However, the second arrow was condensed in the blink of an eye. Swoosh! The Dharmic power arrow tore through the air and pierced the Dharmic art of a half-martial Ancestor of Enigma Palace instantly. The Dharmic art dissipated on the spot and all the Dharmic powers were absorbed by the Dharmic power arrow. It was even faster and more ferocious. The Dharmic power arrow pierced the chest of the half-martial Ancestor of Enigma Palace, burst forth from his body. The terrifying power did not only destroy the life force in the body of the half-martial Ancestor of Enigma Palace, it even charged towards his consciousness. The half-martial Ancestor of Enigma Palace reacted extremely quickly and escaped with his essence spirit right away. Su Zimo ignored that person and turned around. With a lightning gaze, he faced another half-martial Ancestor of Enigma Palace and drew the Dharmic breaking bow once more. In the blink of an eye, a third Dharmic power arrow was formed. How could this be? That's impossible. Pest! Everyone from Enigma Palace gasped in shock as a look of panic finally flashed across their faces. In Su Zimo's hands, that ancient unique treasure could be drawn repeatedly to condense Dharmic power arrows. This meant that their Dharmic arts were completely vulnerable in front of Su Zimo. Swoosh! A third arrow tore through the air and two Dharmic arts dissipated on the spot. An arrow could break all Dharmic arts. Poof! Another half-martial Ancestor of Enigma Palace was pierced by the Dharmic power arrow. With a dark expression, he fell from midair and an essence spirit escaped from the top of his head. Boom! Before his body even landed on the ground, it could not withstand the power contained in the Dharmic power arrow and exploded with his flesh flying everywhere. Thankfully, this person noticed that the situation was bad and escaped first. Otherwise, his body and spirit would have been destroyed together. Who else is there? Su Zimo stood in midair and roared. Under the fearful gazes of everyone from Enigma Palace, he drew his Dharmic breaking bow once more and condensed a fourth Dharmic power arrow. Swoosh! He released his hand and the arrow tore through the air. Another half-martial Ancestor of Enigma Palace was shot down. He was invincible. That was the only thought in the minds of everyone from Enigma Palace. Chapter 1455. Divine Dragon. Chapter 1455. Divine Dragon. On the other side, The fight between Heavenly Secrets and Yen Beichen had already reached its climax. Every single attack was lethal and both wanted to take the other's life. Yen Beichen's injuries were even more serious. However, there was no emotion on his face or in his eyes, as though he could not feel any pain at all. His heart was already filled with hatred. He only wanted Heavenly Secrets to die. He wanted Heavenly Secrets to pay with his life. Heavenly Secrets was in a bitter battle and the smile on his face had vanished completely. In such a massive battle, all his scheming was useless. Yen Beichen did not care about his life at all and he fought with his life on the line with every attack. He was not afraid of death. In fact, in his heart, death was a form of relief for him as long as he could kill Heavenly Secrets. However, Heavenly Secrets did not wish to die. Given that psychological disparity, Heavenly Secrets was suppressed by Yen Beichen once more. On the other side, Su Zimo had complete control of the situation with the Dharmic breaking bow. A strange blood glint flashed through Heavenly Secrets' eyes from time to time and nobody noticed it. He could no longer control himself and wanted to activate the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. If he summoned the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, his combat strength would recover rapidly and he would definitely be able to kill Yen Beichen here. However, if he were to use the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, he would not be able to hide his identity. Even in the hands of a half-martial ancestor, it would take a while before a second arrow could be released from the unique treasure, the Dharmic breaking bow. The reason why Su Zimo could continuously draw the Dharmic breaking bow and condense Dharmic power arrows was because of the Creation Lotus platform in his consciousness. After the Creation Green Lotus grew to grade 7, it gave birth to extremely mysterious abilities. The Creation Lotus platform presided over his consciousness and the 63 lotus holes spewed rays of light continuously, nourishing the black-haired essence spirit. As long as his black-haired essence spirit was strong enough, he could release Dharmic arts continuously. This was the reason why Su Zimo could release more than 30 powerful Dharmic arts in one go previously. Although the Dharmic breaking bow was an ancient unique treasure, the arrow that he condensed was a form of Dharmic art. With the help of the Grade 7 Creation Lotus platform, the power of the Dharmic breaking bow was pushed to its limits in Su Zimo's hands. There were 5 more half-martial ancestors of Enigma Palace with combat strength present. Half-martial ancestor Qian Tian, half-martial ancestor Divine Turtle Dove and the others were among them. However, the 5 half-martial ancestors did not dare to release any Dharmic arts. An arrow from the Dharmic breaking bow could break all Dharmic arts. Any Dharmic art would not be able to withstand a single blow from the Dharmic breaking bow, and would even turn into the power of the bow to injure themselves. Let's fight him in close combat. Half-martial ancestor Qian Tian hollered and exchanged glances with half-martial ancestor Divine Turtle Dove. In a flash, he released an extremely strange movement technique and his figure flickered indeterminately. As long as he could get close, the Dharmic breaking bow posed no threat. If one wanted to shoot an arrow, they would have to use both arms. Once a person was closed in, the Dharmic breaking bow would definitely become a burden. The movement technique they were releasing right now was extremely particular as well. It was an inheritance secret skill of Enigma Palace, the Mystic Firmament Steps. Its powerful and mysterious aspect was second only to the Exquisite Steps. Back in the Dao inheritance ground, Di hunted Lin Xuanji for a long time but could not do anything to the latter. The Mystic Firmament Steps was the reason why. The Mystic Firmament Steps were random and did not have a fixed set of steps, making it impossible for opponents to determine the direction of the steps and their movement techniques were unpredictable. The 5 half-martial ancestors of Enigma Palace used the Mystic Firmament Steps and charged towards Su Zimo. Su Zimo did not put away the Dharmic breaking bow. Instead, he closed his eyes and captured the location of the 5 half-martial ancestors of Enigma Palace with his unfathomable spirit perception. Although the footsteps of the 5 half-martial ancestors were unpredictable, the killing intent they exuded never changed. Suddenly, without even opening his eyes, Su Zimo drew his Dharmic breaking bow and released the 5th Dharmic power arrow without hesitation. Swoosh! The Dharmic power arrow tore through the air. That arrow was shot towards half-martial ancestor Divine Turtle Dove. Half-martial ancestor Divine Turtle Dove was shocked. The arrow was fired at the same time as his footsteps. By the time he wanted to change directions, It was already too late. Half-Martial Ancestor Divine Turtle Dove hurriedly twisted the horsetail whip in his hands and whipped the Dharmic power arrow. Bang! There was a loud bang. The silver threads on Half-Martial Ancestor Divine Turtle Dove's horsetail whip exploded instantly. The power of the arrow did not diminish and it pierced through the silver threads of the horsetail whip, piercing towards the chest of Half-Martial Ancestor Divine Turtle Dove. In his fluster, Half-Martial Ancestor Divine Turtle Dove raised his arms. Both arms were ruptured on the spot and flesh splattered everywhere. Arg! Half-Martial Ancestor Divine Turtle Dove cried in pain and retreated. Before Half-Martial Ancestor Qian Tian and the other three could close into Su Zimo, their expressions turned extremely terrible and they froze on the spot. Su Zimo turned around and fired another arrow. The sixth arrow. By controlling his Dharmic weapon, Half-Martial Ancestor Qian Tian barely managed to block the arrow. Even then, he spat out a huge mouthful of blood with a dispirited expression. Retreat! There was no way Half-Martial Ancestor Li Heng and the remaining two Half-Martial Ancestors dared to advance as they retreated one after another. We can't win him. We can't win him at all. Half-Martial Ancestor Li Heng shouted as he retreated. The Palace Lord of Enigma Palace, Half-Martial Ancestor Qing Zhe, had consumed a lot of elixirs. With the support of a mighty figure of Enigma Palace, he rested for a while and had already recovered slightly. When he saw the scene on the battlefield, the Palace Lord of Enigma Palace looked a little angry, helpless and dejected. No matter the outcome of this battle, Enigma Palace's reputation and status would be far inferior compared to before. Enigma Palace had a long history and had never been challenged by any sect or faction since the ancient era. Who would have thought that they would be cornered to this extent by four conjoint body mighty figures that came knocking? In truth, it was not Enigma Palace's fault. Right now, the four of them could be considered as the four strongest monster incarnates of the conjoint body realm. Be it Ming Zhan, Demonis Ji or the Asura Yen Beichen, all of them were existences that could overwhelm anyone of the same level. Furthermore, the exquisite killing formation that could kill patriarchs outside Enigma Palace was broken by Demonis Ji, and that was the reason why Enigma Palace was in such a passive position. Enigma Palace was not the only one. Even for other super sects, if the Patriarch did not make a move, the four of them would be able to kill their way through any of them with their combat strength. Palace Lord, send the order. The mighty figure of Enigma Palace said in a deep voice, the sect will suffer immense losses if this continues. That's right. Half-Martial Ancestor Qing Zhe nodded as well and lamented. Desolate Martial's momentum has been established. Without a Patriarch, there's no one who can suppress him anymore. Elder Qing Zhe took a deep breath of air and turned around. Bowing deeply in the direction of Enigma Palace, he said in a deep voice, Divine Dragon, please attack and suppress the enemy. There was a long silence. Suddenly, a deafening bang sounded around Enigma Palace. Instantly, the mountains collapsed and the earth shattered. Under countless gazes, the terrain around Enigma Palace rose slowly and a terrifying aura spread out. A divine dragon that was thousands of feet long revealed its true body and coiled around Enigma Palace before spiraling up. Its gigantic dragon eyes resembled two ancient stars. The scales on its body were larger than the city gates and shone with a cold glint. Its towering dragon head swayed slightly and dust fell endlessly. Opening its mouth slightly, it spat out a dragon breath and bared its menacing fangs. Chapter 1456. Ancestor Realm. Chapter 1456. Ancestor Realm. The aura of that divine dragon was way too strong. Even from Long Ran and the others, Su Zimo did not feel such pressure. Of course, the main reason was because Long Ran had not transformed into his dragon true body in front of Su Zimo before. However, the divine dragon before him was in its complete dragon form. Su Zimo could not tell the cultivation of the divine dragon. However, he guessed that the divine dragon was at least at the Ancestor Realm. He did not know how long the divine dragon had lived. 50,000 years. 100,000 years. Perhaps it was even longer. The dragon race had a long lifespan that far exceeded the human race. It was only normal for an Ancestor Realm divine dragon to live for hundreds of thousands of years. The divine dragon exuded an ancient aura and had an extremely long beard. When it hung down from its chin, it resembled a galactic river that looked a little old. However, the moment this old dragon appeared, the entire world went silent. The old dragon's body that was thousands of feet tall broke free from the mud and spiraled upwards, watching the cultivators in front of Enigma Palace with a burning gaze. The gaze seemed like it was looking at a group of ants. Or rather, if this old dragon were to take a breath of air, all the cultivators in front of Enigma Palace might turn into ashes. Everything went silent. Even the Asura, Baichen, had no choice but to stop under the pressure of the old dragon. His body trembled slightly as he resisted the immense might of the old dragon. Who would have thought that there was an Ancestor realm divine dragon sleeping around Enigma Palace? It was Enigma Palace's mystical guardian beast. This was the foundation of Enigma Palace. The Exquisite killing formation was only the first line of defense. The second line of defense was this old dragon at the Ancestor realm. Suddenly, Su Zimo recalled his encounter with Lin Xuanji in the Dragon Bone Valley of the North region. Now that he thought about it, it was not a coincidence that Lin Xuanji came to the Dragon Bone Valley. One of Su Zimo's true bodies was among the dragon race. He knew the temperament of the dragon race the best. The dragon race was prideful. He did not know what sort of an incredible figure Enigma Palace produced in the past to be able to make an Ancestor realm divine dragon guard this place wholeheartedly. If the Dragon Phoenix true body was here, the current situation would not be a big deal. Even if this old dragon belonged to Enigma Palace, it was a dragon after all and would not harm the taboo Dragon Phoenix no matter what. However, it was different for the Green Lotus true body. In the eyes of the old dragon at the Ancestor realm, the Green Lotus true body was no different from other ants. Why did you wake me up? The old dragon's voice sounded and spread to every corner of the heaven-expanding mountain range, shocking everyone with its endless might. Senior Divine Dragon, our sect has encountered a great enemy. Please kill the 4 of them. Half-Martial Ancestor Qing Zhe was extremely respectful and polite to the Divine Dragon as well. After bowing, he said in a deep voice. Humph. The old dragon harumphed coldly and the entire world shuddered. Enigma Palace is truly getting worse. To think that you would be rendered completely helpless by 4 conjoint body realm brats that came knocking. As the old dragon spoke, it extended its dragon claws and grabbed towards Su Zimo's group of 4. The dragon claw covered the skies and its sharp claws were aimed at the heads of Su Zimo's group of 4 without any mistake. The most frightening thing was that Su Zimo's group of 4 could not move at all under the envelopment of the dragon claw, as though they were restrained by an invisible force. This old dragon was way too strong. At his age, he had witnessed countless changes and bloodshed in Tianhuang mainland. Killing Su Zimo's group of 4 was as simple as crushing 4 ants. In midair, Baichen's eyes were filled with endless hatred. He was indignant. A smile reappeared on Heavenly Secrets' face. The more furious Baichen was, the more amused he was. Asura, you've lost. Heavenly Secrets smiled gently and made a beheading gesture. Heavenly Secrets. Baichen had an enraged expression and his body trembled. The hatred fiend's saber buzzed and trembled, but he could not break free from the shackles on his body. Suddenly, the dragon claw paused in midair and did not descend. A look of confusion flashed through the old dragon's eyes as he frowned slightly and hesitated. Thereafter, under the gazes of half-martial Ancestor Qing Zhe and the others, the old dragon retracted its dragon claw slowly. The shackles on Su Zimo's group of 4 gradually dispersed as well. Su Zimo muttered internally as well. He did not know what happened in that short period of time either to cause this old dragon to change its mind. Divine Dragon, what's wrong? Half-Martial Ancestor Qing Zhe said hurriedly. The 4 of them barged into Enigma Palace and shattered the mountain gate steel, killing a few mighty figures of Enigma Palace and severely injuring many half-martial ancestors. Divine Dragon, please kill the 4 of them. I won't be interfering in this matter anymore. The old dragon said inexplicably and returned to the ground. It closed its dragon eyes and lay dormant without moving. Divine Dragon, how can you do that? Half-martial Ancestor Qing Zhe was anxious and grumbled. Without even opening its eyes, the old dragon said indifferently, if you continue to talk to me, I'll devour you first. Half-Martial Ancestor Qingze was shocked. Although this old dragon was Enigma Palace's mystic guardian divine beast, it was not restricted by the sect rules. If he was truly devoured alive, there was nothing he could do. Even the Palace Lord of Enigma Palace could not understand what was going on, let alone the others. Only Heavenly Secrets frowned slightly in deep thought. The old dragon sprawled on the ground and suddenly shook its head. 2 long streams of air spewed from its nostrils and dust billowed. Nobody noticed that 3 sleazy figures were hiding in the hair on the old dragon's neck and were almost flung off. The 3 figures were not even as thick as the old dragon's beard and were hidden among them without anyone noticing. The 3 of them were Lin Xuanji, Little Fatty and Shi Jian, who had escaped from underground. "Thank you, Senior Divine Dragon," Lin Xuanji whispered. The old dragon harumphed as a response. The reason why the old dragon stopped in time earlier on was because of Lin Xuanji's persuasion. There were less than 10 cultivators in Enigma Palace who knew this old dragon, and Lin Xuanji was one of them. "Lin Xuanji, you're quite something." Little Fatty hid in the old dragon's beard and was almost scared out of his wits. Now that he snapped out of his stupor, he could not help but say, "Get this divine dragon to attack and kill that bullshit Heavenly Secrets. This Heavenly Secrets is always smiling. I can tell that he's not a good person. Kill your head." Lin Xuanji rolled his eyes. "Senior Divine Dragon is already giving me face by not interfering. How can he attack someone from Enigma Palace? It's fine if it's just Heavenly Secrets. I suspect that there are others involved." Lin Xuanji's gaze landed on Half-Martial Ancestor Divine Turtle Dove and Half-Martial Ancestor Qian Tian as he murmured, "I've got to get the old man back given the situation. Otherwise, Brother Su and the others are going to die here." He muttered again. Chapter 1457. You guys, kill yourselves. Chapter 1457. You guys, kill yourselves. What's going on? Could Desolate Marshal truly be someone blessed with great fortune? That's right. He fought and injured so many experts beneath Enigma Palace, and yet, the mystical guardian beast refuses to kill him? When the cultivators of Enigma Palace saw that, they started discussing excitedly. "Palace Lord, let's invite the Patriarch back." Half-Martial Ancestor Li Hang had a grim expression as he sent a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. "That's the only way." Half-Martial Ancestor Qingze nodded. Clang! Clang! On the other side, the moment Yen Beichen broke free, he charged towards Heavenly Secrets with the Hatred Fiend Saber. Heavenly Secrets was the only one in his eyes. Heavenly Secrets had a calm expression and did not fight Yen Beichen head-on. He retreated with the mystic firmament steps. Swoosh! At the same time, Su Zimo opened his Dharmic breaking bow once more and condensed a Dharmic power arrow. It tore through the air and sealed Heavenly Secrets' escape path instantly. Heavenly Secrets' expression finally changed. Desolate Marshal and the Asura were the 2 strongest monster incarnates in the current era. Even if he had heaven-defying methods, he could not defend against them. Poof! Although Heavenly Secrets' footsteps were mysterious, his shoulder was still pierced by the Dharmic power arrow and his entire arm exploded into a blood mist. The Asura slashed down head-on. Heavenly Secrets dodged with all his might, but a bloodied wound appeared on his chest by the Hatred Fiend Saber. His flesh was overturned and his bones could be seen. Ugh! He grit his teeth and grunted dully, breaking out in cold sweat from the pain. Heavenly Secrets channeled his Dharmic powers, and in the blink of an eye, his severed arm grew once more. However, the wound on his chest was still bleeding endlessly. The Hatred Fiend Saber contained an extremely terrifying fiend chi of hatred, and even the smallest wound was extremely difficult to heal. Heavenly Secrets' blood chi was severely depleted. He retreated continuously with a scarlet glint in his eyes. He could barely hold it in any longer. Kill! Right then, Half-Martial Ancestor Qian Tian and Half-Martial Ancestor Divine Turtle Dove charged forward once more. One of them blocked the Asura while the other charged towards Su Zimo. Humph! The Asura slashed in reverse. The Hatred Fiend Chi and Asura Fiend Chi burst forth instantly and sent Half-Martial Ancestor Divine Turtle Dove flying. Half-Martial Ancestor Divine Turtle Dove spat out blood with a dispirited expression. A blood glint shone in the depths of his eyes as well. Clang! Su Zimo drew his Dharmic breaking bow and fired another arrow. Although that arrow was blocked by the Dharmic weapon of half-martial ancestor Qian Tian, it could not defend against the terrifying power contained in the arrow. As though he was struck by lightning, the Dharmic weapon left his hands and the flesh on his arms exploded. His body swayed and he nearly fell from midair. The two half-martial ancestors could not defend against Su Zimo and Yen Beichen's killing power at all. In the blink of an eye, Heavenly Secrets was exposed before Su Zimo and Yen Beichen once more. The blood glint in Heavenly Secrets' eyes gradually appeared and could no longer be concealed. If he did not use the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, he might die here. When he saw that, Su Zimo's expression was cold as he drew the Dharmic breaking bow once more. He was forcing Heavenly Secrets to use the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra because he wanted all the cultivators of Enigma Palace to witness his true colors. Buzz! The bow quivered. A Dharmic power arrow tore through the air and arrived before Heavenly Secrets instantly. Heavenly Secrets' eyes shone brightly with a blood glint. Suddenly, as though he sensed something, the blood glint in his eyes retracted rapidly. How dare you! An authoritative roar sounded. Immediately after, a gigantic crack appeared in the void beside Heavenly Secrets. It was dark and cold as a palm extended from within and gripped the Dharmic power arrow. Bang! That indestructible Dharmic power arrow was crushed by a bare-handed palm. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Right then, a figure walked out slowly from the gigantic crack. With a scrawny face and a slender figure, he wore a Taoist robe and strode out with hands behind his back. It was only when that person walked out from the crack that the pitch-black crack gradually closed. This method definitely surpassed the strength of a conjoint body or even a half-martial ancestor. A Mahayana Patriarch. For example, the reason why the 9 immortal sects, 7 fiend sects and 6 Buddhist monasteries were called super sects was not only because they had ancient inheritances and strong foundations. More than that, it was because those sects had Mahayana patriarchs backing them. Furthermore, they had more than one. In fact, some of the super sects even had emperors. However, these Mahayana patriarchs almost never revealed themselves and rarely appeared in the cultivation world. Even if anything major happened in the sect, Mahayana patriarchs would not appear. In the eyes of a Mahayana patriarch, there was only one thing that was important: to become an emperor. Everything else was insignificant. Furthermore, now that they were at the Mahayana realm, they were no longer bothered about most secular things in the cultivation world. The birth of a paragon and monster incarnate was nothing in the eyes of a Mahayana patriarch. Throughout history, there had been way too many cultivators who became paragons and monster incarnates. However, there were extremely few who could truly advance to the Mahayana realm. One would only be qualified to converse with them side by side after advancing to the Mahayana realm. Therefore, Mahayana patriarchs would only come out of seclusion if their sects met with a calamity or danger of annihilation. Initially, half-martial ancestor Qing Zhe thought that he could suppress Su Zimo and the others completely with his methods. To think that the situation would develop to such an extent. Left with no other choice, he could only send a message to invite the patriarch of the sect back. Greetings, Patriarch Qing Cheng. When half-martial ancestor Qing Zhe, half-martial ancestor Li Heng and the others saw the skinny cultivator, they bowed and shouted. Half-martial ancestor Qing Zhe was the descendant of Patriarch Qing Cheng. Although the difference between them was only a single cultivation realm, Patriarch Qing Cheng was countless years older than half-martial ancestor Qing Zhe. The Patriarch has appeared. That's a Mahayana Patriarch. I've never seen one ever since I joined Enigma Palace. The cultivators of Enigma Palace were shocked. What's going on? Patriarch Qing Cheng surveyed his surroundings and swept his gaze across the battlefield, asking slowly with a cold glint in his eyes. Patriarch! Half-martial ancestor Qing Zhe said hurriedly. Desolate Marshal and the others charged into Enigma Palace and declared that they wanted to kill our young master. Furthermore, they destroyed the steel of the mountain gate and killed a few mighty figures of Enigma Palace while injuring many half-martial ancestors. This desolate Marshal is lawless and even snatched my Dharmic breaking bow. The gaze of the half-martial ancestor of Qing Zhe shifted slowly, pausing on Demonist Ji, Mingzhan and Yan Beichen for a moment before landing on Su Zimo. Su Zimo's hair stood on end instantly. It was as though a calamity was about to descend upon him the next moment. This was a Mahayana patriarch who had comprehended divine powers. There was a world of a difference between him and a half-martial ancestor, who had only comprehended a trace of divine powers. If Patriarch Qing Chang wanted to kill him, even his green lotus true body would not be able to defend against it. You sure are bold to kill cultivators of Enigma Palace. Patriarch Qing Chang said slowly, expressionlessly. There's another reason for this. Su Zimo took a deep breath of air and withstood the might of the Patriarch, saying in a deep voice, "We're not here because we want to be enemies with Enigma Palace. I don't want to hear you explain." Patriarch Qing Cheng shook his head and said indifferently, "You guys, kill yourselves." Chapter 1458. Storyteller. Chapter 1458. Storyteller. The words of a Mahayana patriarch exuded an unquestionable power. It was as though asking Su Zimo and the others to commit suicide was giving them a dignified death. To be fair, Patriarch Qing Chang was not bothered to attack. Although these people were monster incarnates of history, in his eyes, they were nothing but ants. Kill myself. Su Zimo smiled. To think that even a Mahayana patriarch of Enigma Palace would be so biased and oblivious to the truth. Even against a Mahayana patriarch, Su Zimo did not retreat at all and revealed his sharpness. Su Zimo's gaze was dark as he said slowly, "If I kill myself here today, I'll definitely make a comeback in the future. At that time, I'll see who from Enigma Palace can stop me." This was not a threat. Even if his green lotus true body died here, he still had two true bodies. The dragon true body had the backing of the dragon race and divine Phoenix Island. By the time Su Zimo made a comeback, even Enigma Palace might not be able to stop him. Patriarch, Desolate Marshal has another clone in the dragon race and his status is extremely high. He should be the young master of the dragon race. Half-Martial Ancestor Qing Zhe said hurriedly. Oh! Patriarch Qing Cheng frowned. That was a little troublesome. Even if Su Zimo was backed by the other supersects, Patriarch Qing Cheng would kill him without any qualms. However, if it was the dragon race, one of the primordial races, he would have to reconsider. After a moment of silence, Patriarch Qing Cheng said indifferently, "I can let you leave, but the three of them still have to die. I don't care what supersects you guys are from. Since you guys fought in front of Enigma Palace, you have to accept punishment." Patriarch Qing Cheng had long seen through the cultivation techniques of Yan Beichen, Mingzhan and Demonist Ji and naturally knew where they came from. But today, he had to kill to establish his dominance. Otherwise, the might of Enigma Palace would be gone. You can't kill the three of them either. Su Zimo did not yield at all and glared at Patriarch Qing Cheng still, saying in a deep voice. In that short period of time, Half-Martial Ancestor Qing Zhe had already sent a lot of information about Desolate Marshal to Patriarch Qing Cheng secretly. "Desolate Marshal, don't push your luck." Patriarch Qing Cheng sneered, "Even if I don't kill you, you won't be able to live for long either. You'll suffer from the killing badges of the primordial races. The three of you, aren't you going to kill yourselves? Are you waiting for me to make a move personally?" Patriarch Qing Cheng ignored Su Zimo and looked at Yan Beichen and the other two, asking indifferently. Yan Beichen's expression was cold as he channeled all the strength in his body and held the Hatred Fiend saber horizontally across his chest. He looked at Patriarch Qing Cheng and released a torrential fiend chi from head to toe. Anyone who stopped him from killing heavenly secrets would be his enemy. Even against a Mahayana patriarch, Yan Beichen dared to raise his saber. However, under the power of a Mahayana patriarch, even the simple act of raising the Hatred Fiend saber seemed to have exhausted all his strength. There was no way he could fight against Patriarch Qing Cheng. Phew! Patriarch Qing Cheng smiled indifferently. The monster incarnate of this generation sure has some guts. To think that he would dare to raise his saber in front of me. That's good as well. I'll send you to hell so that you can meet that fiend Emperor Hatred. The gaze of Patriarch Qing Cheng intensified as he suddenly reached out and grabbed towards Yan Beichen. Ah! When he saw that, Su Zimo reared his head and howled into the skies. Circulating his blood chi to its limits, he broke free from the might of a Mahayana Patriarch and drew his Dharmic breaking bow once more, condensing a Dharmic power arrow that was aimed at Patriarch Qing Cheng. Yan Beichen was extremely important to Su Zimo. He had once watched Su Hong leave him helplessly. He would definitely not let that scene happen before him again. Swoosh! The Dharmic power arrow tore through the air and shot towards Patriarch Qing Cheng, arriving instantly. The cultivators were shocked. Wasn't Desolate Marshal way too bold? Yan Beichen cultivated the Hatred Sutra and was unable to extricate himself from the hatred. Even though he lost his rationality completely, he merely raised his saber horizontally in front of Patriarch Qing Cheng. However, Desolate Marshal actually dared to attack a Mahayana Patriarch. The Dharmic power arrow was extremely fast. Even Patriarch Qing Cheng did not seem to be able to react and did not dodge or defend. He merely turned around slowly and glanced at the Dharmic power arrow. Boom! The Dharmic power arrow exploded instantly and dissipated into emptiness, vanishing. With a single glance, that indestructible Dharmic power arrow exploded. This was the means of a Mahayana Patriarch. This was the power of the Mahayana realm. It was a complete suppression. Patriarch Qing Cheng had a dark expression as he looked at Su Zimo with a chilling gaze. Desolate Marshal, you must be tired of living. You're disrespecting me? Do you really think I won't dare to kill you? The enmity and attention of Patriarch Qing Cheng was shifted towards Su Zimo completely after that arrow as a tremendous might enveloped the latter. Against that might, the Green Lotus true body creaked and his bones felt like they were about to fall apart. Brother Yen, all of you run. Although Su Zimo was expressionless, he sent a voice transmission secretly with his spirit consciousness in a hurried tone. Don't worry about me. I have true bodies elsewhere and I won't die. Foo-foo. Patriarch Qing Cheng laughed mockingly. None of you will be able to leave today. He glared at Su Zimo with a cruel expression. Patriarch Qing Cheng could even hear Su Zimo's spirit consciousness transmission. I can spare your life since you're backed by the dragon race. However, I have to teach you a lesson. He looked at Su Zimo and said indifferently, your cultivation will be crippled today. Before his sentence was finished, Patriarch Qing Cheng patted Su Zimo gently through the void. Swoosh! Although that action was casual, a terrifying gigantic palm appeared in midair and crushed down towards Su Zimo. Before the gigantic palm descended, Su Zimo's body trembled continuously and his 7 orifices bled under the immense pressure. If the cultivation of the Green Lotus true body was crippled, it would be no different from killing him. Suddenly, without any warning, a figure appeared in front of Su Zimo. It was an old man with a Confucian crown on his head and long robes. He had 3 long whiskers on his face and did not have any immortal aura. Instead, he looked like an ordinary person that roamed around the mortal world. Who wants to cripple his cultivation? The old man with the Confucian crown harumphed gently and asked. That single harumph caused the terrifying palm in midair to dissipate and vanish instantly. Storyteller. When Su Zimo saw the old man, his heart skipped a beat. Although it was only a back view, he recognized him right away. This old man was the storyteller on the streets of the marketplace and forced back a divine dragon outside the capital of Great Zhou. The moment the storyteller appeared, 3 figures leaped out from the divine dragon laying dormant at the side and shouted as well. Old man, you're finally back. I've missed you so much. After a long time, Lin Xuanji dashed over with reddened eyes and tears streaming down his face. Little Fatty and Shi Jian followed behind and stumbled over. Chapter 1459. Bow of the Patriarch. Chapter 1459. Bow of the Patriarch. Lin Xuanji's tears were earth-shaking and those who did not know better would have thought that something bad had happened. The storyteller's face darkened. The moment Lin Xuanji arrived, he raised his leg and kicked the ladder back. This action did not have the slightest bit of the demeanor of an expert, and it was like a fight between mortals in the marketplace. No matter what, there was nothing strange about the storyteller. That kick gave Little Fatty and Shi Jian a shock. Fuck! Lin Xuanji staggered from the kick and nearly fell from midair. He could not help but grumble, "Old man, why did you kick me? Stop pretending." The storyteller pouted his lips. He had completely seen through Lin Xuanji's poor acting skills. With an embarrassed expression, Lin Xuanji wiped away the tear droplets on his face and coughed gently. "Although those tears were fake, my longing for you truly extends to the depths of heaven and earth." "Humph." The storyteller sneered and glanced askance at Lin Xuanji, saying in disdain, "Without even having to divine, I can tell from your sorry state that you were set up by others just by thinking with my bum." Little Fatty and Shi were dumbfounded at the sight. This old man truly has no boundaries with his words, and he's even more incredible than Lin Xuanji. He compared his brains to his bum? That's the help that Lin Xuanji sought for? No matter how I look at it, he doesn't seem like an expert. The two of them exchanged glances and muttered internally. "Look at you." The storyteller did not seem like he was going to let things go as he scolded. "You must have forgotten everything I taught you. The only thing you know to do when you're bullied is to ask me to come back and clean up your mess. I even feel ashamed for you." No matter how thick Lin Xuanji's skin was, he could not withstand the lecture of the storyteller, and his face flushed red. "Old man, stop it." The veins on Lin Xuanji's neck popped out as he could not help but argue. "I've been locked up for many years and had no intention of asking you for help. If this matter wasn't so serious, I wouldn't have called you back." "My, how dare you talk back?" As though he had not heard Lin Xuanji mention that something serious was going on, the storyteller mocked instead. "You sure are a fucking embarrassment to be locked up by others for many years." "Fuck." Lin Xuanji was at a loss and his face turned purple, wanting nothing more than to dig a hole and hide in it. None of the cultivators present dared to interrupt. This old man did not look decent at all. However, everyone could clearly see that when the old man appeared, he merely harumphed casually and blocked the attack of Patriarch Qing Cheng. Furthermore, although the old man was spouting nonsense, Patriarch Qing Cheng did not express anything. Naturally, nobody would jump out foolishly instead. Initially, there was a tense situation in front of Enigma Palace. After the storyteller appeared, the tension in the air eased significantly as he scolded Lin Xuanji continuously with a spectrum of terms. Lin Xuanji frowned and shivered in anger. He did not even dare to retort now. Every single sentence he refuted was met by 10 replies from the storyteller. At the side, Demoness G covered her mouth and chuckled. She could not take it anymore and smiled. "Senior, there's so many people watching. Give him some face." Demoness G's words were also a reminder for the storyteller to settle the situation before him. "Humph." The storyteller harumphed and said reluctantly, "Since Founder Master Ling Long's successor is pleading for mercy, I'll let you off temporarily this time round." "Oh, my dear benefactor." Lin Xuanji felt as though he had been pardoned. This time round, he was truly moved to tears as tears streamed down his face. He wanted nothing more than to run to Demoness G and kowtow to her. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief as well. In that short period of time, his head throbbed in pain. "Greetings, Senior. I'm Desolate Marshal." Su Zimo hurried before the storyteller and bowed. "Fufu, we meet again." Earlier on, the storyteller had a disdainful expression towards Lin Xuanji. However, in the blink of an eye, his expression changed as he nodded towards Su Zimo with a pleasant expression. Creak, creak. Lin Xuanji clenched his fists and ground his teeth in anger. The attitude of the storyteller towards Su Zimo caused the hearts of everyone from Enigma Palace to skip a beat. Half-Martial Ancestor Qian Tian and Half-Martial Ancestor Divine Turtledove had ugly expressions and looked at Heavenly Secrets instinctively. Heavenly Secrets was expressionless. Right then, Patriarch Qing Cheng advanced and bowed to the storyteller, causing an uproar. Not many cultivators of Enigma Palace knew of the storyteller's identity, let alone outsiders. But now that even Patriarch Qing Cheng had to bow down, just who was this storyteller? Or rather, what was his cultivation realm? Could he be an emperor? Su Zimo was secretly alarmed as well. He had met the storyteller twice, but he did not expect the latter to have such a powerful background. "Greetings." The moment Patriarch Qing Cheng spoke, the storyteller waved it off and interrupted. "Rise?" The old storyteller had a disdainful expression towards Lin Xuanji and was delighted towards Su Zimo. Now that he turned to face Patriarch Qing Cheng, he had a new expression again. You were the one who wanted to cripple his cultivation earlier on? The storyteller asked indifferently with a calm tone, and no one could guess his emotions. Yes. In front of the storyteller, Patriarch Qing Cheng clearly became a little cautious and no longer had his dominance from earlier on. This desolate marshal fought in front of Enigma Palace. You know that he's desolate marshal? Before he could finish, he was interrupted by the storyteller's question. Although Patriarch Qing Cheng was interrupted twice in a row, there was no displeasure on his face. I know. Patriarch Qing Cheng replied honestly. I don't care what desolate marshal did in front of Enigma Palace. The storyteller said slowly, he once established the martial Dao and imparted martial arts to all living beings, allowing everyone in the world to cultivate and bring blessings to the world. Aren't you afraid of divine retribution for crippling someone with such merit? The storyteller's tone turned increasingly stern and towards the end, he was already lecturing. Patriarch Qing Cheng lowered his head slightly with a terrible expression. He was different from Lin Xuanji. He was a Mahayana patriarch after all. It was truly embarrassing for him to be scolded like this in public. Actually, it's not Patriarch Qing Cheng's fault. The palace lord of Enigma Palace could not help but say, Desolate Marshal and the others have truly gone too far. They arrived at the entrance of Enigma Palace and destroyed the stele with the human emperor's handwriting, killing a few mighty figures and injuring many half-martial ancestors. They even declared that they wanted to kill our young master of Enigma Palace. If Patriarch Qing Cheng did not attack and allowed Desolate Marshal and the others to charge into Enigma Palace, they would probably start a massacre given their natures. Half-martial Ancestor Qian Tian added hurriedly, the palace lord is right. Patriarch Qing Cheng already gave Desolate Marshal a chance for him to retreat, but he still pushed his luck. The Patriarch had no choice but to cripple his cultivation. Nonsense. We're not here to make Enigma Palace our enemy. We're only here to settle scores with Heavenly Secrets. Demonis G. hollered. Humph. Heavenly Secrets is our young master of Enigma Palace. He's not someone you can provoke casually. Half-martial Ancestor Qing Zhe sneered. The young master of Enigma Palace. The storyteller raised his brow and shifted his gaze slowly towards Heavenly Secrets, asking faintly, when did you become the young master of Enigma Palace? Chapter 1460, Blade Wielder. Chapter 1460, Blade Wielder. Heavenly Secrets had a calm expression as he bowed respectfully and said in a deep voice, Master, a few years ago, the god, witch and other primordial races sought me out and asked me to divine the location of the primordial taboo. Su Zimo frowned slightly. To think that Heavenly Secrets was the disciple of the storyteller. Heavenly Secrets and Xuanji. From that perspective, the two of them should be fellow disciples. Heavenly Secrets continued, I was worried that the taboo would grow and wreak havoc in Tianhuang mainland, so I agreed to help and divine the location of the taboo. However, this matter was stopped by Junior Brother Xuanji. Junior Brother Xuanji is on good terms with Desolate Marshal and the primordial taboo is the latter's spirit beast. I can understand why Junior Brother Xuanji would object to it. However, Enigma Palace is concerned about the masses and can't prioritize personal relationships. As such, I reported this to the palace lord and the other elders for them to make a decision. When he heard that, Lin Xuanji could not help but stifle a chuckle and mock. The primordial races were the ones who wreaked havoc in Tianhuang mainland back then. Why are you still working with them? Why don't you go and kill them instead? Junior brother, I know that you harbor resentment, but I'm not to blame for imprisoning you. Heavenly Secrets said indifferently with a calm expression. At that moment, half-martial Ancestor Qing Zhe coughed gently. At that time, I discussed with the elders and indeed, the threat of the taboo was greater. Therefore, I asked Heavenly Secrets to join forces with the primordial races to eliminate that hoe for the time being. Since Lin Xuanji was insistent on objecting, we imprisoned him temporarily and allowed Heavenly Secrets to become the young master so that he can interact with the primordial races and plan this matter. The establishment of the young master is in line with the palace rules and was decided through a discussion between the elders of the palace. Yes. The storyteller nodded, still expressionless. Very well, there doesn't seem to be any problem. After a brief pause, he shifted his gaze towards Heavenly Secrets and asked indifferently, however, "What's up with the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra that you're cultivating?" Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Many gazes landed on Heavenly Secrets instantly. Many cultivators were shocked. Earlier on, they did not take Su Zimo's words seriously at all. But now that the storyteller said that, there could be no mistake. The young master of Enigma Palace had cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Even half-martial Ancestor Qing Zhe, half-martial Ancestor Li Hang and the others looked at Heavenly Secrets in disbelief and frowned. Among everyone, half-martial Ancestor Qian Tian and half-martial Ancestor Divine Turtledove did not have much of a reaction. Instead, there was a hint of panic in their eyes. Heavenly Secrets, did you really cultivate that fiend technique? Half-martial Ancestor Qing Zhe asked. Heavenly Secrets had a calm expression. He had expected that he could not hide it from the storyteller. He said frankly, "I did cultivate the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, but I don't think there's anything wrong with this cultivation technique." Desolate Martial cultivated this fiend technique as well, but he still established the martial Tao to impart martial arts to all living beings all the same. That's right. The storyteller nodded. There's indeed nothing wrong with a fiend technique. The key lies in the people who cultivated it. When Desolate Martial cultivated it, he saved countless humans in Myriad Phenomenon City. What is your purpose for cultivating it? Master, I didn't use it to do anything outrageous. Heavenly Secrets displayed a strong mental fortitude against the storyteller's question and explained in a deep voice without any panic. You're involved in Qin Pianran's death, right? The storyteller asked indifferently. At the mention of that, the hatred fiend Qi around Yan Beichen intensified and his eyes shone with endless killing intent. Master Ming Jian, Tao Lord Immortal Sword has some personal ties with me. I couldn't reject his request to help. Heavenly Secrets replied, furthermore, I only divined Qin Pianran's location. I did not lay my hands on her the entire time, let alone know that Tao Lord Immortal Sword would kill her. Of course you knew. The storyteller said, moreover, you knew in your heart that with Qin Pianran's death, Yan Beichen will definitely turn into a fiend and become this generation's fiend emperor hatred. Your target was not Qin Pianran the entire time, but Yan Beichen. You wanted the birth of a true Asura so that he could be the first blade in your hands. Yan Beichen was stunned and his expression changed indeterminately. From time to time, he would frown and his features would contort, as though he was in immense pain. So, right from the beginning, he was someone else's chess piece. Pianran's death was entirely because of him. His fate was not in his control at all. Heavenly Secrets was silent. The storyteller continued, the so-called worry of the taboo wreaking havoc in Tianhuang mainland was merely an excuse. After all, the taboo would become the second blade in your hands. You merely had a single motive for capturing Night Spirit instead of killing it. You wanted to lure out your third blade, Desolate Martial. Your fourth blade was the major sects and factions of the cultivation world. Your fifth blade was the primordial races. The storyteller said slowly, and you, Heavenly Secrets, are the blade wielder behind this. All you had to do was gather the 5 blades at Heaven and Earth Valley to create a wanton massacre. At that time, Heaven and Earth Valley would be filled with mountains of corpses and rivers of blood. No matter which blade was snapped, it won't affect you at all. That's because you'll already be the biggest winner and Heaven and Earth Valley would become the best place for you to cultivate the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Those words were earth-shaking. The cultivators were dumbfounded in shock. Even Demonist Ji, Ming Zhan and Lin Xuanji were astounded with widened eyes. Although they had heard about the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley, they did not know that there was a blade wielder manipulating everyone's fates behind the scenes. Even Desolate Martial was his chess piece. Su Zimo sighed internally. Initially, he had the same speculation but he was still unsure about many things. Now that the storyteller had explained it so clearly, he truly understood the entire situation. Heavenly Secrets was indeed terrifying. If not for Monk Daming, Su Zimo would have been a chess piece abandoned and sacrificed by Heavenly Secrets. What great expense you went through. The storyteller nodded as well and sighed. Even though the storyteller explained everything, Heavenly Secrets still smiled indifferently without any panic in his eyes. He was frighteningly calm. Heavenly Secrets smiled gently. Master, you're wrong. I didn't refine a single drop of Heaven and Earth Valley's bloodline. That's right. At the mention of this, the storyteller shook his head as well and lamented. Man proposes but God disposes. You've planned everything but you never expected that you would become the sixth blade in the hands of others. Those words pierced into Heavenly Secrets' chest like a thorn. Up till this point of his cultivation, he had planned flawlessly and had never made such a huge mistake. The smile on Heavenly Secrets' face gradually vanished. It was only at that moment that a hint of anger and indignance flashed through his eyes. However, they vanished without a trace in the blink of an eye. In Chinese, his name is Tianji. Chapter 1461. A Chance. Chapter 1461. A Chance. Suddenly, Heavenly Secret smiled. Master, at the end of the day, all of this is just your speculation. You can't possibly want to punish me just because of some guesses, right? Very good. As expected of my disciple. The storyteller nodded with a mocking expression. Su Zimo frowned slightly as well. Heavenly Secrets was not wrong. Although what the storyteller said was the truth, it was only his speculation after all. If he wanted to punish Heavenly Secrets in front of everyone just because of some guesses, it would truly be unconvincing. Heavenly Secrets smiled gently. I didn't kill anyone during the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley. My hands were clean. Although Heavenly Secrets was defeated, it was not to the extent of a complete defeat. As he had said, even if he set up such a huge scheme and plotted against everyone, his hands were not tainted by a single drop of blood. Master, I have nothing to say if you want to punish me. However, I'm indignant if it's just based on your speculation. Heavenly Secrets bowed deeply to the storyteller and said nothing more. I did not harm anyone. If I'm punished, I'm sure the cultivators of the sect will be disheartened by this outcome as well. That's right, it's not entirely Heavenly Secrets' fault for joining forces with the primordial races as well. It was also an outcome decided after a discussion between us elders. Elder Qian Tian and Elder Divine Turtledove stood out to plead for mercy for Heavenly Secrets. Su Zimo sighed internally. This was indeed a problem for the storyteller. After all, there was a master-disciple relationship between the two of them. Even the storyteller would not be able to bear the thought of punishing him with some mere guesses. The storyteller gazed into the distance and remained silent for a long time before saying slowly, Naturally, I'm not going to punish you for your crime. Heavenly Secrets smirked, as though he had expected this outcome. He knew his master way too well. The fact that he dared to do such a thing meant that he had predicted everything. Even the storyteller was part of his plans. After a brief pause, the storyteller changed the topic. However, I've once told you guys that as disciples of Enigma Palace, you should not get embroiled in the strife of the cultivation world. If you get into trouble, settle it yourself. I won't help you. I wouldn't dare to forget your teachings, Master. Heavenly Secrets replied respectfully in a deep voice. Since you've caused trouble today, go and settle it yourself. No one from Enigma Palace is to interfere. The storyteller said indifferently. Su Zimo was stunned. Although the storyteller took into account their relationship as master and disciple, he did not express favoritism. Instead, he gave Heavenly Secrets a chance. Of course, it was also a chance for Yen Beichen. Asura, what do you think? The storyteller asked. Thank you for granting my wish, Senior. Yen Beichen's voice was cold and his eyes shone fiercely. On the other hand, Heavenly Secrets was extremely calm as he said in a deep voice, Master, I seek a fair opportunity. This will be a one-on-one fight. Whether or not it is to the death, no one is allowed to interfere. Heavenly Secrets' words were also a reminder for Su Zimo and the others to not help. Don't worry, I won't punish you if you can survive the Asura's saber. However, I won't save you if you encounter danger either. The storyteller said, this battle will end the grudges. It doesn't matter who the victor is, you will fight to the death. All right. Heavenly Secrets smiled gently and agreed readily without any fear in his eyes. As though he recalled something, Su Zimo frowned slightly and hesitated to speak. However, on second thought, Even if he said it, Yen Beichen would not care given his personality. After all, he had waited for this moment for far too long. Although Su Zimo looked worried, he still retreated with Ming Zhan and Demonis Ji. Everyone from Enigma Palace retreated as well. In the blink of an eye, an empty space appeared in midair where Yen Beichen and Heavenly Secret stood facing each other. Asura, I know that Qin Pianran's death is heartbreaking for you and you can't let go. Heavenly Secret said, right now, every single day you live is a torture for you. You can't wait to commit suicide to reunite with Qin Pianran, right? Heavenly Secret's eyes shone with a strange glint. Even his tone turned gentle, causing one to trust him from the depths of their hearts and lower their guard. Yen Beichen frowned and lowered his head slightly, as though he was reminiscing about the past and was in pain and self-blame. What a brilliant bewitching technique! Demonis Ji frowned slightly and murmured. She knew that Dharmic art the best. However, to think that Heavenly Secrets' attainments in bewitchment were not weaker than hers. There were all sorts of things in the mystic Firmament record. As the disciple of the Storyteller, Heavenly Secrets had shocking talent and a wide knowledge of things. Nobody knew how strong Heavenly Secrets was because he rarely attacked. Up till this point of his cultivation, if Heavenly Secrets wanted to do something, he did not even have to do it personally. All he had to do was set up a trap with ease and everything would naturally be resolved. Both parties looked to be facing one another motionlessly. However, Heavenly Secrets had already attacked. Since you're in so much pain, how about letting me send you off? Heavenly Secrets continued to bewitch Yen Beichen and said gently, give up, I'm helping you. As long as you die, you can reunite with Qin Pianran. Qin Pianran is waiting for you down there. Can't you feel her? Yen Beichen's body trembled even more violently and his features were contorted. What should we do? The Asura can't hold on for much longer. Demonis Ji had a worried expression. If he can't break free from Heavenly Secrets' bewitchment, the Asura will probably commit suicide on the spot without Heavenly Secrets even making a move. No. Su Zimo shook his head slowly. Brother Yen cultivated the Hatred Sutra and the hatred in his heart has already surpassed everything. If he thinks that he can bewitch Brother Yen with that bewitchment technique, Heavenly Secrets is underestimating both Brother Yen and the Hatred Sutra. Right then, Yen Beichen's body gradually stopped trembling and calmed down. What's wrong? Have you made a decision? Heavenly Secrets walked slowly towards Yen Beichen and asked carefully and gently. Suddenly, Yen Beichen raised his head. His eyes were pitch black like ink, resembling two gigantic black holes that could devour everything. Heavenly Secrets was alarmed when he saw the pair of eyes. I am indeed in pain and I've let Pianran down. Yen Beichen said slowly, however, even if I commit suicide, I have to kill you first. Without you, Pianran wouldn't have died at all. Heavenly Secrets, you deserve to die. Buzz. Before his sentence was finished, Yen Beichen swung the Hatred Fiend's saber in his hands and slashed towards Heavenly Secrets through the void. That slash did not only contain the endless hatred of the Hatred Sutra, but also the torrential killing intent of the Asura Sutra. The saber intent of the two fiend techniques fused together against that slash. This was the strongest slash that Yen Beichen had released since he started cultivating. Even Su Zimo, who was watching from afar, felt his scalp tingle and was secretly speechless when he saw the burst of that slash. The Hatred Fiend's saber streaked through the air. A black streak of light descended on Heavenly Secrets' head with hatred and killing intent, as though it wanted to destroy everything. Chapter 1462. Dead Heavenly Secrets? Chapter 1462. Dead Heavenly Secrets. That slash was so terrifying that even Su Zimo might not be able to withstand it. Heavenly Secrets retracted his smile with a grim expression. He had not expected that his bewitchment would force out the most terrifying Asura. Slapping his storage bag with his left hand, Heavenly Secrets took out a protection talisman and tore it apart instantly, forming a defensive barrier around him. At the same time, he changed his hand seals repeatedly. Mystic Firmament Dharmic Robe. Mystic Firmament Mirror. Suddenly, a set of clothes that flowed with Dharmic powers appeared on Heavenly Secrets' body and shone with a mysterious glow. An ancient mirror appeared in his right hand and blocked the black light that descended from midair. In the blink of an eye, Heavenly Secrets released 3 defensive methods. Snap. The mystic firmament mirror was the first to shatter. Under normal circumstances, this mystic firmament mirror could reflect attacks. However, the power of Yen Beichen's slash was way too terrifying. The saber intent that was fused with the 2 fiend techniques of the Hatred Sutra and Asura Sutra was something that even the mystic firmament mirror could not defend against and shattered instantly. Right after was the defensive barrier formed by the protection talisman. The true form of the Hatred Fiend saber did not even manage to slash the barrier. The black light that burst forth was enough to slice the barrier into 2. Boom! Thereafter, a loud bang sounded when the black light struck the mystic firmament Dharmic robe heavily. The mystic firmament Dharmic powers shattered and the true form of the Hatred Fiend saber appeared. However, that slash did not slice Heavenly Secrets into 2. Instead, it met with immense resistance. Bang! Heavenly Secrets smashed heavily onto the ground, but he struggled to stand up before long. He was covered in dust and his face was pale as blood oozed from the corner of his mouth. Heavenly Secrets' robes were already torn by the Hatred Fiend's saber, and his inner armor was exposed. This was a defensive connate mighty figure Dharmic weapon and was extremely precious. Previously, Heavenly Secrets suffered a loss at Heaven and Earth Valley. Ever since he returned, he wore this inner armor. Today it saved his life. In order to defend against the Asura's slash, Heavenly Secrets had to use 4 defensive methods. Crack, crack, crack. Right then, a jarring sound echoed from the inner armor. Heavenly Secrets lowered his head. A crack appeared on the inner armor and split it into 2. The light of the inner armor dimmed rapidly. Swoosh! The inner armor fell off from Heavenly Secrets and was completely crippled. The crowd fell into an uproar. That slash destroyed a connate mighty figure Dharmic weapon. Well, well, well. Heavenly Secrets nodded slowly. As expected of the weapon of the Fiend Emperor Hatred. To think that it would possess such sharpness even after being sealed for so many years. However, Asura, can you still release a saber intent as such? Heavenly Secrets sneered. The combination of the 2 saber intents was not inferior to the thousands of heaven-slaying sword chi that Su Zimo released instantly. It took a huge toll on his essence spirit. It was impossible for him to release a second slash within a short period of time. Heavenly Secrets had long seen through Yen Beichen's facade and smiled. Asura, you won't be able to hold on for much longer. That slash had already expended everything you have. When Yen Beichen arrived before Enigma Palace, he was trapped in the Exquisite killing formation and nearly died. By the time he came out, he was already covered in injuries. However, he did not recuperate at all and fought against Heavenly Secrets with his injured body. Up till this point of the battle, his injuries had worsened. The only thing that kept him on was a strong determination and hatred. Of course, Heavenly Secrets' situation was also terrible. Yen Beichen pursed his lips without saying anything and continued charging over. His footsteps were already staggered but his gaze was fixed on Heavenly Secrets without shifting at all. Heavenly Secrets held his folding fan. The 2 of them fought once more. Blood splattered everywhere as the figures intertwined. Yen Beichen was fighting with his life and wanted to kill Heavenly Secrets even at the risk of being severely injured. This method of fighting restricted Heavenly Secrets. His folding fan smashed towards Yen Beichen's head. However, Yen Beichen did not even look or defend. Instead, he slashed in reverse towards Heavenly Secrets' glabella. In less than a dozen breaths, Yen Beichen gained the advantage once more. However, the 2 of them had expended too much of their stamina, Dharmic powers and blood chi up till this point of the battle and were left with almost nothing. This battle was no longer just about technique and strength. Instead, it was a competition of psychology and willpower. Nobody knew who the eventual victor would be until the final moment. The 2 figures crossed once more. Heavenly Secrets' folding fan smashed Yen Beichen's arm. Yen Beichen's Hatred Fiend saber sliced a gigantic wound on Heavenly Secrets' chest with fresh blood. Heavenly Secrets' expression was already extremely terrible. The wound caused by the Hatred Fiend saber was extremely difficult to heal. Furthermore, it possessed the Hatred Fiend chi and was destroying his body continuously. If this continued, there was a high chance he would fall first. Gripping the Hatred Fiend saber in his right hand, Yen Beichen used it as a walking stick and limped towards Heavenly Secrets. His other arm was slumped at his side, his bones broken. He no longer had any Dharmic powers in his body. It was impossible to repair that broken arm. Even so, the hatred and killing intent in Yen Beichen's eyes did not change at all right from the beginning. That gaze made Heavenly Secrets panic. Finally, he could not hold it in any longer. This was also his final trump card. The Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Before the battle, he had specially requested from the Storyteller a fair fight without anyone interfering. The moment he made that request, he was already prepared to use the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Even if he channeled that fiend technique, no one could interfere. Although not many people died before Enigma Palace, the refinement of that bloodline was enough for him to recover to his peak condition within a short period of time. Asura, it's over. Heavenly Secrets looked at the Asura that walked over with a mocking expression. Channeling a mental cultivation technique, his eyes shone with a strange blood glint as he said slowly, Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Not good. Su Zimo was alarmed. This was the worry he had before the battle. He knew the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra the best. If Heavenly Secrets were to release the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, he could recover rapidly and there would be no doubt about the outcome of this battle. When he saw that, the Storyteller suddenly sighed and shook his head, his eyes filled with disappointment. Yen Beichen did not seem to have heard what Heavenly Secrets said. Or rather, he did not care at all. No matter the cultivation technique Heavenly Secrets released, there was only a single obsession in his heart, to kill the latter. Yen Beichen continued advancing and arrived before Heavenly Secrets before long. He raised the Hatred Fiend saber and slashed forward. That slash was weak without any saber technique, let alone saber intent. The fact that Yen Beichen could raise the Hatred Fiend saber and slash down with his arm was already his limit. At that moment, Heavenly Secrets' expression changed starkly as though he was rooted on the spot. His eyes were widened as though he had seen a ghost. Poof! Under countless gazes, the Hatred Fiend saber slashed at Heavenly Secrets' head and its blade dug into his bones, almost splitting his head into two. That slash even tore through Heavenly Secrets' consciousness. Naturally, even his essence spirit wouldn't be spared. What was going on? Heavenly Secrets was dead. The cultivators present were not the only ones. Even Su Zimo was dumbfounded and looked at everything in disbelief. Chapter 1463. Chess Piece. Chapter 1463. Chess Piece. Yen Beichen was stunned as well. Even he had not expected that his slash could kill Heavenly Secrets. The Hatred Fiend saber tore through Heavenly Secrets' consciousness and the Hatred Fiend chi on the saber had already surged in. Before long, Heavenly Secrets' essence spirit would be devoured by the Hatred Fiend chi. How could this be? Heavenly Secrets' face was covered in blood as his eyes widened in shock and anger. He muttered repeatedly, how could this be? Sigh. The Storyteller sighed deeply with a look of sadness and disappointment in his eyes. Master, how could this be? How did I lose? Heavenly Secrets turned slightly and looked at the Storyteller in disbelief. Heavenly Secrets, if you hadn't used the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra for this battle, it would mean that you still had a conscience. You lost the moment you released that fiend technique. The Storyteller sighed once more with a rueful expression. This time round, you've lost completely and utterly. This time round? Heavenly Secrets asked with widened eyes, as though he had thought of something. Su Zimo frowned slightly in deep thought as well. Right then the Storyteller added, someone came and refined the bloodline of this place in advance. Su Zimo was shocked. Instantly, he was enlightened. Monk Daming. Earlier on, Monk Daming was here. However, nobody noticed him at all when the cultivators fought in front of Enigma Palace. Monk Daming secretly absorbed all the bloodlines that were scattered here. That was the reason why Heavenly Secrets was stunned the moment he released the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. That was because all the bloodlines here had been refined. There was no reaction when he released the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Heavenly Secrets' blood chi was exhausted to begin with. Coupled with the unforeseen event, he was slightly slower and his head was sliced by Yen Beichen. The storyteller had long known about this. Therefore, he knew the outcome the moment Heavenly Secrets used the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. The fact that the storyteller did not capture Monk Daming meant that the latter had already left silently before the storyteller descended. Nobody discovered him throughout the entire process. If the storyteller had not pointed it out, even Su Zimo would not have noticed it. Suddenly, Su Zimo thought of something. Back on Six Stars Mountain, Monk Daming once told him that Enigma Palace might be able to dispel his killing badge. Su Zimo was wary towards Monk Daming. When Monk Daming said that, Su Zimo had this feeling that Monk Daming had another motive. Later on, Monk Daming said that Yen Beichen wanted to come to Enigma Palace to take revenge on Heavenly Secrets. Without much thought, Su Zimo headed straight for Enigma Palace. To think that in the end, he would still become a chess piece of Monk Daming. Most importantly, even if Su Zimo knew that Monk Daming was making use of him, he had to come to Enigma Palace. Be it for Lin Xuanji or Yen Beichen, he had to make the trip to Enigma Palace. However, once he arrived at Enigma Palace, he would be made use of by Monk Daming. Such methods were truly many times more brilliant than Heavenly Secrets. However, Su Zimo was still puzzled. If Monk Daming merely wanted to refine bloodlines, was there a need to take the risk to refine it at Enigma Palace? A Mahayana Patriarch was alarmed this time round. There was also the storyteller who was highly likely an emperor. Once Monk Daming's tracks were exposed, it would be difficult for him to escape unscathed. Furthermore, there were not many cultivators who truly died in this battle. Most of them were merely severely injured. As such, there were not many bloodlines. Monk Daming was so cautious. Could he have set up such a trap just to refine that bit of bloodline? It's him. Right then, Heavenly Secrets suddenly roared in a hysterical manner. Blood was still flowing down Heavenly Secrets' face. When he heard that, his features were contorted with a menacing expression that was extremely terrifying. Su Zimo sighed internally as he looked at Heavenly Secrets. As the disciple of the storyteller, Heavenly Secrets planned everything and devised strategies almost flawlessly. Unfortunately, by some freak accident, Su Zimo and the others released Monk Daming in this generation. In the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley, Heavenly Secrets paved the path for Monk Daming and the latter benefited immensely. This time round, Heavenly Secrets was defeated once more. He lost his life in this defeat. Come out! Heavenly Secrets surveyed his surroundings and roared, completely losing his mind. Come out! I want to see who you are. At that moment, Heavenly Secrets looked a little pitiful and tragic. He had already lost before Monk Daming even appeared. He lost twice. He had lost completely and tragically. Most importantly, right from the beginning, Heavenly Secrets did not know who he had lost to. In fact, he did not even know if the person who schemed against him twice in a row was a man or woman, what sect or faction he or she was from, or what he or she looked like. For someone who thought that he was extremely smart and was in control of everything, how much of a blow was that? He left a long time ago. The storyteller shook his head and sighed in disappointment. Left. Heavenly Secrets grinned and fresh blood continued flowing down his cheeks. He murmured twice and suddenly laughed in a deranged manner with a tragic expression. Foo, ha 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 ha. Heavenly Secrets' gaze landed on Su Zimo and the others as he smiled sinisterly. Chess pieces. You're all chess pieces. Even though he's so powerful, he's nothing but a chess piece for someone else as well. Him. You. All of you. He pointed at Su Zimo, Yen Beichen and even the storyteller and grinned. None of you can escape. Your fates have long been decided. Ha ha ha. Yen Beichen could not listen to it any longer. After resting for a while, he recovered some strength and slashed once more, splitting Heavenly Secrets' head into two. Heavenly Secrets' laughter stopped abruptly. His essence spirit was also shattered by the hatred fiend saber and was destroyed on the spot. Thump! Heavenly Secrets' corpse fell heavily in a pool of blood. However, his laughter seemed to echo in everyone's ears for a long time without dissipating. It was unsettling and sent shivers down their spines. The storyteller closed his eyes, seemingly unable to bear it. No matter what, Heavenly Secrets was his disciple after all. He was filled with guilt and self-blame for the state the latter was in today. Lin Xuanji no longer had his usual cheeky attitude and had a grim expression. He could not help but recall the scenes when he was young and often pestered Heavenly Secrets to play with him. At that time, everything was carefree and warm. No matter what they played, Heavenly Secrets could beat him with ease. Even in terms of cultivation realm, Heavenly Secrets was far superior to him and had entered the conjoint body realm long ago. The Storyteller had a total of 4 disciples and Heavenly Secrets was the most outstanding no matter which aspect he compared them from. To think that he would die in front of Enigma Palace today. Pian Ran, did you see that? The indignance in Yen Beichen's heart was instantly relieved after Heavenly Secrets was killed. He knelt down and looked up into the skies, saying in a daze, "I've killed all the enemies who murdered you. I didn't let any of them off. Pian Ran, don't worry. I'll accompany you very soon, very soon." After saying that, Yen Beichen could no longer hold on and fell to the ground with a thud, unconscious. He was already exhausted and covered in injuries. The reason why he could last till now was all because of Heavenly Secrets. Now that Heavenly Secrets was executed, he could not hold on either and fainted. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.